Welcome, Bastronauts. This is Teal's Bass Galaxy, an endless dimension of fishing legends and degenerates connecting through raw, real, in-person conversations and stories. No, this is not your average fishing podcast. There's no rules, there's no limits. 3, 2, 1, blast off. This podcast is intended for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Attention all Bastronauts. This podcast is supported by the Bass Galaxy's title sponsor, Waypoint Angler Supply, the Midwest's new landing pad for hardcore anglers just like you and me. If you're looking for the sneaky goods you can't find anywhere else, look no further. Waypoint Angler Supply has the largest offering of JDM tackle in the Midwest, and they are right here in Minnesota on Lake Minnetonka. This is truly a place every bass fisherman in Minnesota needs to visit because we finally have a tackle shop in the state that's as dreamy as the ones you find down south. And the staff at Waypoint Angler Supply understands the various needs of us anglers, which is why you'll find the selection there so enticing. Ross and the folks at Waypoint Angler Supply are passionate about carrying the right stuff, providing an authentic customer experience, and they listen to the anglers. And it doesn't end at JDM baits. They stock all the top U.S. brands, as well as local Minnesota brands like Vocelka Fishing and Customs, Arsenal Fishing, Bait Lab Custom Swim Baits, All Terrain Tackle, Bagley Northland, Outcast Tackle, and more. So stop into their store on Lake Minnetonka or visit their website, waypointanglersupply.com. That's waypointanglersupply.com. For the month of July, use the code GALAXY0224 to save 20% on your next tackle binge. The Bass Galaxy is also supported by Vocelka Fishing and Customs, Supreme Lending, Dream Team, Lake Country Insurance Services, My Wedge Motor Support, just north of Memphis, Barbecue and Catering. Thank you. Gill-Daddy. He's back. He's back. Welcome, dude. Thanks for making the trip.
Thanks for having me.
Got to give a quick shout out to Brad Seward for the bottle of Revel Stoked Pecan Whiskey. I just poured myself a little sipper of that. Thank you, Brad. Cheers. And Mr. Fothergill, you are sitting top 5 in the Opens right now. How in the hell does that feel?
It feels great, but it's just, I don't know. Can't get sucked up in that. Just got to keep grinding and keep moving forward. It's kind of my mindset.
I got you. Well, it was pretty cool. I didn't get to see you. We were both pretty busy down at the Classic, but I mean, I don't know. You got to be one of the younger dudes to fish a Classic, and I guess we talked about it a little bit on the phone, but I think on the record, I think it'd be good to just relive that for a moment because the Classic was a damn good time, and I was not even fishing it. But what was fishing the Super Bowl bass fishing like? And describe to me, I guess, first time going into it, how you prepared, how it kind of panned out, and how it was maybe different than other tournaments you're used to fishing.
Yeah, so I guess when I first got there, I got there the night before practice started. So we got 3 days of pre-practice, and then they had a meeting day, which we couldn't fish. And then we had an official practice day. You could only fish till 3 or something. We did official takeoff, run through, and everything like that. And then we had a media day, and then the next day was the start of the tournament. So we had all kinds of stop and go, which really, it took a lot to keep your mind focused on fishing and not let it wander off on everything else. But it was, the pre-practice days, the 3 days we had, it felt just like a normal tournament. Grand Lake is a really big lake and only 50 boats. You really don't see anyone. So I could really get into my zone and really just do my thing. It was kind of the first pocket I roll into. Jason Christie's in the back of it, and I was just like, well, here we go with this.
That was day one?
Yeah, day one of practice. First place I went into, Jason Christie's in there. I was like, well, I'm in the right area, but this is not the guy I want to compete against this week. So
Right.
But no, it was a life-changing week for sure, and it makes you only want to get back that much more.
Absolutely. Well, tell me, like, going into the event, what kind of, I guess, did you have in mind going into the event, and how did you have to adapt during that event, and how tough was it too? Because Grand seems like just a grinder of a fishery.
Yeah, I actually had I say decent practice. I literally found one creek that I felt really good about, that they were biting really good in practice. I was working with Kyle Pratchik in practice, and I had found the creek the first day. And it was, I caught a 5-pounder and a 4-pounder back to back, and then I shook off 30 in like an hour and a half. And I cut my hook off, and I was just like, that's pretty good. And I was like, they might just be biting. So I went to another creek, nothing, and I ended up I was averaging like 4 bites a day from then on for the pre-practice days.
Really?
I was just like, dang, that creek's really good.
Yeah.
And then we do the meetings and everything, and I sent Kyle in there on Wednesday, our official practice day, and he caught a 5-pounder in like 5 minutes. I was just like this is something.
Yeah.
And that day I'd actually found a backup mag draft bite that I felt really good about.
Sure.
And so I was just like, okay, I got 2 things, like we can roll with this. But yeah, day one of the tournament, we roll in there, and me and Kyle start eyesight of each other, and we both realize real quick, like, something's changed, and it ain't good.
Really?
But yeah, I stayed in there, I rotated through my stuff, and then I wish it didn't happen, but, I'm glad it happened. I caught a 5-pounder at 11 o'clock in that creek after doing terrible, and, now I'm stuck with, do I leave? Do they pull up? Like, do I have to re-rotate everything? Like, what do I do here? And ended up re-rotating everything, which is a stupid decision, but you kind of have to after catching a 5.
Right. And you were sitting pretty good. I mean, that puts you in decent contention. I forget where you were sitting after day one. But
I was 40-something place, 13 pounds. So, and I don't know, you're definitely still in it for the check and making the final day, but, Justin Hamner had 22 pounds, so I knew you got to really make things happen on day 2. But, I mean,
would you have had a place to roll to instead of that creek? And do you think you could have done better? Like, looking back, I mean, learning from the decisions you made that day?
I definitely had that. I had that idea in my head, that gut feeling like I need to leave way earlier than I did. And being the Classic, it's that much harder to listen to your gut.
Oh, I could only imagine, dude.
Yeah.
Especially when you catch a 5-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a 5-pounder is...
that's a game changer on a lake like that.
It is, and it can be the greatest blessing and the greatest curse.
Mm-hmm.
Heard it. I've seen it. And so day 2.
Yep, day 2, I started in the same creek. I don't know if you saw the clip, but Matt Robertson started right in front of me, caught a 4-pounder on swim bait his first cast.
I didn't see that clip, but
that hurt a little bit. But then I went in there telling myself that, if it's not happening, I'm bailing early, because I got a backup plan and I can make something happen. And sure enough, I left with like 1 barely keeper at like 9, I think I left. And then went and ran my big swim bait deal, and I caught 2 3-pounders, I think.
Sure.
I got the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And then late in the day, I think about 1 o'clock, I really stumbled on something. I stumbled on little rock piles that I'd found earlier in practice. I didn't catch anything on them, but, they just set up right. Went rolling into there. I caught a 5 and a 4 back to back. And then like another 3-something, I called up to my bag. I had 17-something.
Just on rock?
Mm-hmm.
Like, offshore rock pile?
Just offshore.
Sure.
But yeah, and it was something I felt really good about going into day 3, because I had just cracked the code. It was 1 o'clock when I found it.
Sure.
And those were jerkbait fish on those places.
Seemed kind of like Hamner-ish
mm-hmm.
type pattern.
Well, day 3, I go rolling into there like, I'm going to smash them. Cooper Gallant sitting where I caught my 5 and my 4. Just past him is Rasmussen, and then just beyond him you can see Hamner. And I was just like, okay, now what? Like,
right.
I'm below all these guys. I can't be in their space. I got to give them their I got to give them their space. They're beating me, so I kind of meander around in there, try to find something new, and I end up bailing pretty early and just running new water again.
Yep.
And it took all day, but I did find a couple big ones. I caught it 4 something on flipping a jig on a channel swing bank, and then a couple like 2 somethings. I think I weighed 15 pounds that day, and I think I stayed right where I was at. I didn't move up, didn't move down. So
right.
But yeah, it was a super fun event. Just kind of, I wish I would done earlier, but just flying around, just fishing whatever looked good. It's hard to do in the Classic, but once I got in the groove, it just clicked.
Yeah. Well, dude, regardless of finish, I mean, the boys from the north are definitely super proud of you. So
I appreciate that.
And then to see what you've been doing on the college circuit, would you win 2 in a row, then a second, and then you're 5th for the Opens. So you got like what? Third for the Opens right now?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad, dude. That's sick. How did I miss that? I feel like I looked at the results wrong or something.
I was 5th going into Logan Martin.
That's what it was. They weren't updated yet.
Yeah.
Nice job, Ronnie.
Go Wolves, Ronnie.
Go Wolves. Go Wolves. How about that? Dude?
Pretty crazy.
Pretty wild. So what's been like the biggest eye-opener fishing now at the level you're fishing now? I feel like you're pretty well prepared for it, but I guess what's different? And what, I guess, have you had to learn and adapt to more that's been a challenge?
Fishing around people.
Really?
I mean, you give 5 days, those guys on any lake, they're going to find literally everything. So you just got to know that you're going to be fishing around people all day, every day. And that's, I think, where I excel is the mental game. Just nothing will throw me off. That's just kind of where you got to just put your head down and just roll with the punches, I think.
Have you seen some shit, like as far as like savagery on the water with some boats? Or
I've got to witness a couple yelling matches. I haven't been involved in it, but I've got to witness some stuff go down.
Cool.
It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Like pretty harsh words.
At Okichobee, in that crowd of like 80 boats, there were some words.
Imagine.
Yeah, but overall, everyone understands that we all have a job to do, and we just kind of work with each other.
Isn't there like a deal where like if you pull down, find your spot, and anybody who touches their trolling motor pedal, everybody's like "fuck you" type of thing? That's the way like it's described to me.
If that's the case, everyone was really mad at me at Okichobee because I was weaving through people all day long. The only time I put my poles down is if I found one on bed on my electronics. But other than that,
you did pretty good on Okichobee. So apparently, it's not that big a thing.
It worked for Scott Martin, that's for sure.
That it did. That lake is his to lose though every tournament though. I feel like so. And he can be a bit of a source of power on the water with his where he wants to fish, from what I've heard.
Oh, he went completely undercover on us day one.
Really?
I was the boat next to him in the crowd. He caught 33 pounds right in front of me. I didn't know it all day. I didn't know it till the camera or the pictures came out that night. I was scrolling through them and.
How did you not know? Like, was he just really like?
Yeah, his boat was not wrapped. He didn't have a jersey on. He has buff on all day, and he didn't say anything all day. And it was just completely undercover. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of savage.
Smart strategy.
But yeah, that was kind of like, it was good, but it was kind of upsetting at the same time knowing that 33 pounds, because I weighed 13 pounds day one. I had a pretty slow day, and it was, I don't know, kind of a confidence boost, but kind of like made me upset at the same time.
So walk me through how you're fishing on Okichobee, if you please.
So
because it seemed kind of special and kind of unique and kind of not atypical, not typical.
So we had 5 days in Okichobee. Day one, if I remember right, was when a cold front came through and I actually got on a really good flipping bite. Me and my roommate Bo Browning, we both caught he caught like a 6 and a 7. I caught like a 5, and we're both texting each other like, because it was supposed to stay cold until the tournament. So we were like, okay, like they might stay here during practice, and then they might change during the tournament. So we're kind of thinking where they're gonna go. That flipping bite ended up dying pretty quickly, and we kind of scrambled. And then I think day 3 of practice, I got on this little live scope deal. I had this one pond. They call it a pond on Okichobee. It's just a bay in the cattails. Like it's like 3 or 4 feet deep, and I caught like 4 or 5 in there in like 5 casts. And I was just like, okay, I'll put that in my back pocket. And then I roll around the corner, and it's set up the same, and roll in there, and now I cut my hook off because I don't want to catch any more, just because there's boats all the way around, like
everywhere.
Yeah, I just didn't want people to see me. It wasn't about catching the fish as much, but
yep.
And I went around the corner into this other area, and I saw this one fish, and I was just like, if that's a bass, that's Bertha right there. And I flip my Nico over there, and sure enough, she comes up and donk, and it's just zzz, zzz. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
Go about 20 yards further, another one that size comes up, donk. I was just like, okay, like this is something here.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the rest of practice, I ended up just looking for something sneaky, something off the wall. Never happened. But yeah, that second place ended up where that big crowd of boats gathered. But yeah, it was a wacky and Nico deal in practice. And then the tournament, I ended up getting on a minnow deal because they started spitting up shiners in my live well, like 5-inch shiners. And they had a bunch of gold in them. So I went digging in my minnow bag and found minnows that look like gold and put it on a 16th-ounce head, and I just started wrecking them.
Damn.
Like, I had 40, 50 fish days, and it's one of my funnest tournaments I've ever had.
Dude.
After I figured that, I figured that out on day 2.
So you had a tough day 1.
Mm-hmm.
Rolling with that wacky Nico deal you were rolling with.
Mm-hmm.
Day 2,
Yeah, that day 2 is when I dialed that in, just because the fish were still there, but I'm just like, and then day 2, actually, my first cast that morning, I caught just under 9-pounder on my wacky, and that fish actually spit up 3 shiners in my live well, and that's what clued me in. And that's when I tied that on, and I just went to work on them the rest of that day. And I think I had just under 25 pounds that day.
So it's like 2 to 4 foot of water, and you're scoping.
Yep, saw every fish before I threw at it. Yep.
In 4 foot of water.
Yep.
Forward mode or perspective or both or what? It
was both. I was changing back and forth. There was a lot of these. I didn't know it on day 2. Day 3 is when I really dialed in. A lot of them were on bed.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, perspective and forward, because the fish would spawn in the middle of cattail clumps. So on perspective, it would just look like a black hole, but the forward could shoot through that clump and you could see the fish.
Sure.
So it was every fish I found, I had to play with it and see which one you could see them better.
Interesting. I feel like perspective would be better for like a wacky, but like for minnow, I feel like. Do you feel like you could minnow effectively with perspective?
Perspective's goofy because when you have it on the level setting, the level on my mount, you can tilt it clicks.
Yeah.
And the one that's level is good out to like 4 or 5 feet, and that one you can see your bait really good no matter what you're throwing.
On perspective. Whoa.
But as soon as you start tilting into stuff, that's when it starts getting goofy, when you can see your bait and when you can't.
Sure. I was going to ask you about that tilting mount deal and what that allows you to do, I guess, and the drawbacks and the pros of that. And I guess we'll get into that in a little bit, but scoping that shallow, I guess, I don't think a lot of people have confidence doing it. And we've talked about it a little bit before, but you literally, I think, what did you take, top 5 open?
7th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you top 10 and open scoping in 4 feet of water, and that's it. Do you see anybody around you doing a minnow in 4 feet of water?
Nope.
Do you think that pattern was more dominant because they had killed a lot of grass? Was there a lot of lacking? Was the lake lacking a lot of grass? That's what people were saying.
It was, but in the area I was in, there was plenty of, well, I say that the area with the crowd had plenty of grass, lots of old cattails, but then my pond was wide open. There'd be like a cattail root, and there'd be either one spawning on it, or there'd be like 3 or 4 of them sitting on that root.
Sure.
But But yeah, overall, the lake was pretty vacant of grass. It was just shallow cattails and reeds and that sort of thing, pads.
Sure. Interesting. That lake sounds so hard and challenging. I guess how do you describe how challenging it is? Because I feel like you cracked a code, but I feel like average guy can't go out there and catch 40 to 50 fish a day on Okichobee.
I just landed on an area that just had such a population. Like, I don't know why they were there so much. Like my roommate Bo, he ended up not even fishing that area in the tournament. He actually found he had a pond that had like a canal rolling up to it, and in practice he had them filtering in and out of that canal, pre-spawn, post-spawn.
Oh, he had my dock pattern.
Yeah, but he just grabbed that little section of lake and was like, okay, well, they're either going to be spawning in this pond or they're going to be filtering in and out. Like, you just got to pick a small section like that and just treat that like a lake.
Yep.
Kind of.
Yep.
And that's what I think people do all over the lake on Okichobee.
That makes sense. And he finished pretty good too, didn't he?
I think he got 9th. We both top 10'd.
Sure. And you two room together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then because Kyle Patrick doesn't fish the opens, right?
No.
Okay. So it's you and Bo, and that's it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's it? How's it been rooming with him? And I guess what's some things you guys feed off each other with?
It's been awesome rooming with him. We don't share like everything we find. We just kind of make sure that we're both aware of what we're finding. Not like spots, but like patterns.
Yep.
Just make sure we're each aware of what's going on.
Right.
That's kind of how we've been rolling. Like, trying to think. I guess Okichobee, we did give each other areas just because we both agreed that like we need to find an area where it's happening, and we'll just hunker down in that area. That's kind of how Okichobee rolls. But
seems like that's how Florida rolls, but I could be wrong.
No, I agree, 100%. But ever since then, it's just been like, hey, like, got a couple bites on docks, might want to, dabble in that or that sort of thing. But it's been working good so far, just because he's from Arkansas, I'm from here, and we both went to school in Alabama, so we have all lakes covered. So pretty much everywhere we go, one of us will have some sort of idea.
That's sweet. He seems like a cool dude.
He is. He's awesome.
What's like your ritual? Are you guys 100% fishing, or do you guys have any like rituals or things you do outside fishing when you're rooming or traveling, like shit you watch, or pretty much just fishing?
It's just fishing.
Damn.
But yeah, we work together, but we have completely different fishing styles. He's the guy that wants to just pick an area all the time and just camp in that area and just dissect it. And me, I'm trying to burn my whole gas tank every day. Sure. I'm just trying to run water.
Sure.
So we're kind of different in that way, but it's been working out so far.
Interesting. And isn't he more of a baitcaster power fisherman?
He is, but he met me and he's got to use a spin around when you talk to me. So I'm working that into his game, and he's the best chatterbait fisher I've ever seen. So he's teaching me all about that. So that's another area where it's really working out.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. Like, you would think a guy who likes to like throw a chatterbait would be more burn gas and burn the lake down.
It is interesting that way.
The fact, like, some of those reaction bite guys, they'll fish an area just as slow as a guy will with a worm, but it'll be like 8,000 casts instead of 100, and banking that repetitive casts, banging it into that same deal. And
he's big on angles too with those stuff.
I believe that.
It's pretty cool to see and to learn from him.
That's fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'll eat it if it comes at them, right? Mm-hmm. And all of that, and it's interesting. What have you learned with like timing and angles and like how you have to fish spots with them opens guys? Like, it seemed you probably just got to be more on your A game, right? And lining shit up better. And but I think there's a little elephant in the room that we should probably just get off our back. I can't find my velos though, so I'm gonna actually just give me 1 minute. But there's been I'm not one to ride controversy, but you're the best scoper I know. And these scopers are getting a lot of hate nowadays. And I'm just wondering how Easton feels about that. And if you've been getting bullied on tour.
I'm definitely known as the scoper on tour, but I can't say I've been getting bullied because of that.
I got you.
But, there's people who see me, that we're loading up the boats night practice, and they're like, oh, are they biting scoping today? I was just like, Yes, no.
Usually.
Yeah, these days usually they are biting scoping, but
Yeah,
but
what do
no,
you have
it's-
to say to all that? Like, I guess there's been a lot of just chatter online about all that stuff, so it
Yeah.
seems like everybody's got a pretty strong opinion, but I'd be curious, as I think your opinion is pretty good on that
It's
deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such an efficiency tool that, I mean, in this day and age, I'm just waiting for the guy like the hardcore shallow water angler like the Hackney and Christie to really dabble into the forward facing, and the first person to master both of them is going to be unstoppable.
Right.
And I'm just waiting for that to happen. I think Christie's on that way. He's going down that path, I think.
Sure.
But
What do you think about people saying it's ruining tournament fishing and ruining that aspect of fishing, and how much have you heard? It seems like there's a lot of that. There's actually more people than we thought who actually don't want it.
yeah, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for it. Like, it's just like anything with technology. I think we need to keep going forward. We can't just say, whoa, like
Right.
we need to take a step back. I do think the 5 and 6 transducers, that needs to stop, because what's that showing these kids that are trying to come up, like, that you need all that? Like, I have one transducer on my boat. That's all you need. So, and then, I don't know, all that's just too much for me. And I do think there's limitations coming in. I don't think they'll ban it, but I definitely do think there's limitations. And I think hopefully that'll tone everything down. Just,
Yeah.
just calm everyone's nerves, I guess. But
It seems like limiting transducer, like the number of transducers, makes some sense to me.
oh, yeah, definitely.
Be curious, where do you think they'll limit it at? You think it'll be 4? You think it'll be like total? It'll have to be total transducers, right?
I'm
Or
hoping they do 3. So we could have
total transducers
That's what I'm hoping they do.
on the boat.
Mm-hmm. That way, the Humminbird guys could have the 360, and then they could have a live, and then you can have your side imaging transducer in the back.
But then no high-speed 2D.
You have to sacrifice somewhere.
Is that what you'd sacrifice?
No.
3. Okay, you get 3 transducers. Which 3 are you picking?
You
get 3 total.
I'm doing forward, side imaging, high speed.
That's what I would pick too.
Yeah, because with the forward, you can get the mount, or you can do the
Perspective over forward.
Mhm.
Yep. With that adjustable mount, I guess, how much has that helped with different depths with perspective? Like, have you noticed a difference, or what are the drawbacks of that?
I mean, it's nice to see in live, when you start tilting it, but it's still like you do like 2 clicks, you can only see like 8 to 15 feet. Like, it's still like a narrow little range that you can see in. I don't know. It's kind of goofy that way, but it is nice in situations where I'm trying to think. Like on Gunnersville a couple of weeks ago, we had a ledge school, and you could see them crawling around in perspective. It was in like 15 feet, and that was good to be able to pinpoint them. But there's still a time in those deeper waters where 360 is still king, because no matter how deep you are, you get a full plane, clear as day view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think perspective is king 10 feet or shallower.
I would agree.
And then anything deeper in that, 360 is what you need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How have you seen the forward-facing sonar game change? I guess, has it gotten more difficult to scope with more people doing it or trying to do it? Or have you not really noticed much of difference in terms of how the fish react to that type of deal? Like, is there going to be a point where they don't eat minnows anymore on a jig head?
I do think it's going to get harder and harder.
Yeah.
I think I've already seen it on Lay Lake. There's times where they just won't eat it, and I still don't know if it's conditional or if it really is pressure. Only time will tell with that. But it's just like anything else in fishing. They're only eating a jig so long. You got to switch it up. So
yeah.
I think it'll be the same exact way with the minnow. I think it's coming soon.
Sure.
So
sure.
But yeah, it's a crazy game.
It is, dude. It is, and I have so many questions on this scope stuff. But I guess
Keep them coming.
you probably seen your heroes at the Classic. I mean, just how, like, who's been like an older guy who's maybe been really good to you, or kind of felt taking you under their wing, or made you feel more comfortable being around and all that stuff. It seems like they all know you're about to probably take their job. It's been confirmed. Aliens from another planet have landed on Earth. Sources say there's been 2 confirmed landing points for these extraterrestrial beings, one being Japan, and also, unexpectedly, in Minnesota at Waypoint Angler Supply, a local tackle shop on Lake Minnetonka. With the ever-expanding universe, it's no surprise that there are other planets out there that also share our love for the sport of bass fishing. And to Earth's surprise, this latest visit came from extraterrestrial fishermen light years away and many innovations ahead when it comes to fishing equipment. Some hypothesize these beings came from the planet of Naboo, matching up with Mayan folklore dating back thousands of years with fishing equipment ahead of their time. It has been confirmed they left things never seen before by an Earth-born bass. Waypoint Angler Supply is the premier space station in the bass galaxy and has tackle that could previously only be found in Japan or the planet of Naboo. The Waypoint ship is full, but we don't know when the astronauts from Naboo will be back. So hurry in to Waypoint Angler Supply today and stock up on that Area 51 Planet of Naboo JDM good before your buddy is whooping that sweet ass of yours. Stop into their store on Lake Minnetonka or visit their website, waypointanglersupply.com. That's waypointanglersupply.com. Use the code Galaxy0224 to save 20% on your next tackle binge.
Do you trailer your big outboard? Then you need the MyWedge motor support. MyWedge keeps even the heaviest motors safe and secure on the trailer. And talk about easy. Up with the motor, on with the MyWedge, back down, ready to roll. And MyWedge is built to last. It won't rot, it won't split, it won't fail. Guaranteed. Pop on MyWedge centering clips for lateral stability and you're good to go. MyWedge, security in a snap. To order yours, go to mywedge.com.
So
Not there
maybe
yet.
they're a little less kind to a young Gill-Daddy.
I think what you're describing, I think Gussie kind of fits that mold. At the Classic, we go to the rules meeting and everything. He just texts me and saying, if you need anything, just holler at me. And that feels good to receive a text like that from someone that big in the fishing world.
Absolutely, dude.
But yeah, other than that, Wesley and now Kyle, they're rookies now, but they made it. They're the big dogs now, and they're really, if I need anything, just to holler at them and that sort of thing.
That's what's up. Well, I got to know that Wesley guy a little bit, but Pat Renwick said he was jerking my chain the whole time, and he's not actually that big of a sweetheart. So I'm not really sure. He said Wesley's a little bit more of a wild animal than he let on to be, but Wesley honestly seems like a really good dude and freaking hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just appreciative of how much he let out and how much he was willing to share. And he seems like way mature for his age. And I don't know Kyle Patrick very well, but I heard he's kind of like a rabid squirrel, but very smart. And
very smart.
It's interesting because you and Wesley seem more alike than Kyle, but it seems like maybe he's kind of adds like a little flavor to your meat and taters,
Yeah, like you said, me and Wesley are very much alike. We both kind of just stay in the shadows, do our thing, but then there's Kyle. He's the complete opposite. If there's 10 people in the room, he's going to talk to all 10 of them, and it kind of evens it out. Yeah, I guess just having polar opposites like that. But
for sure,
it's been cool to learn from each of them. Just Kyle's from New York, Wesley's grew up and raised in Alabama, so.
Yeah. Well, I know Wesley probably maybe taught you how to swim a jig. Maybe.
Yeah.
What's some stuff Kyle's taught you so far? Like just working with him and learning from him?
Fishing a jig.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He lives by that stupid jig. It's
really?
Not stupid. It's one of the best baits in fishing. But
it is. It is.
He's a master of that thing. And
interesting.
It's really cool to see.
What's some stuff you've learned with the jig from him? Like, is it a different type of jig he's throwing? Is it the way he's throwing it? Is he like pretty conventional yet really in tune, or is it more so like doing weird shit?
It's mainly just how much confidence he has in it. Like he has one jig, it's usually a 3/4 ounce, and he's going to fish brush piles, docks, laydowns, anything that he sees in front of it, he's going to throw that jig at.
That's crazy.
And it's,
me, that way.
No,
Not 3/4. Yeah.
No, he skips that 3/4 under docks too.
It's crazy. It makes sense. I mean, but when the water's cold, I feel like I want a slower one. I mean, all that stuff. But there's guys who are just flat out good at that.
Mm-hmm.
That Tyler Williams seems like he's only throws a jig too.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just confidence thing. Just if you have that much confidence in it, you're ought to get a bite at some point.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I guess I've just taken a different take on it. I'm going to get confidence in a million different baits.
Yep.
But really only need a couple baits. I don't know.
Depends who you ask, and I guess whatever you're doing, I guess I wouldn't question that because it seems to be working. And I mean, if you look at like the best on the MLF side, Jacob Wheeler, Dustin Connell, they're not 3 bait ponies. They got 30 rods on the deck. Thrift before them, like when he was dominating FLW, was 30 rods, and then Bassmaster, it seemed like it was definitely has transitioned more to that, but it'll be interesting. I mean, you fish a jig too, though.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't shy away from a jig ever.
Seems like that's the best bass lure ever made, besides a minnow.
No, I think a jig outshines a minnow still.
So yeah, like let's get this on the record. Like, it seems like at first, after the first 2 events, everybody's like, meh, meh, meh. Dingmann, forward facing sonar, meh, and then I don't know what happened after that. It seemed like there's been a few non-minnow in forward facing sonar events since then. How much?
You talking elites or opens?
All of it. In opens and elite competition, I guess. What are you seeing to maybe? That would be a good argument that it's not like that. You can't just do that. I mean, Koya's finishes, to me, I don't know what he does besides that, but it seems like when that's the deal, he's in the top 10, and when that's not the deal, he might bomb.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, at the Classic, I was fishing by him a little bit, and he was slinging a spinnerbait and flipping a jig a little bit. He was also throwing a minnow too, but like I said earlier, it's not. The scope is not the do-all, end-all. Like I don't know. I don't care how popular scoping gets. You're not gonna be able to just throw a minnow all over the place and win an Angler of the Year or something like that. It's not gonna happen.
How much do you think it will happen in Minnesota now?
I don't think any more than it ever has. It's just certain lakes have the right forage for it, and it'll play there, and other lakes you just got to play the forage.
Yeah. Are perch the right forage for it?
At times, I would say.
They usually lower in the column, right?
Mm-hmm. It's just like any other bait. There'll be times where it shines. There'll be times where you have to flip a jig. They'll be lower in the grass. It's just another tool in the toolbox. Is all it is.
Right. So you need more than just a minnow.
Yes.
Would you say that's been your most effective tool, though?
So far in the opens, yes.
So what of the percentage of bass you weighed, how many would you say have been on a minnow?
Let's see, Okichobee, none on day 1. Day 2 and 3, probably 80%.
Okay.
And then, where'd we go after that?
Still
Wachita.
50%.
Wachita,
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
No, that's a lie. Probably 80% again.
Yep.
Santee, I was catching good on minnow in practice, but that bite died. Ended up being a wacky worm and a drop shot deal. So none on Santee, and then Logan, the last open, none. So I don't know what that adds up to be. Maybe right around 50, a little bit lower.
Yeah. So it's still not 50%, quite 50%.
And you would think, Logan would be a lot more minnow of a deal than, and it was. There's
Guys
a lot.
were doing it.
I just didn't find that deal. So
it's interesting. And then finding bait. I guess, how do you find bait?
You can do it two ways. You can either get a high-speed sonar on your boat and just drive around that way. You can just do it with your side imaging. You put your range really far out, like 200 feet. You can find bait good that way. Or you can just throw your troller down, put it on 10, and just start looking. There's a bunch of different ways you can be pretty efficient doing that.
Sure. And I guess how important is that when you're practicing, and how much time are you spending doing that?
Normally when I roll up to a lake, I'm just trying to find the most active section of the lake, meaning usually bait. I'm looking for birds, I'm looking for bait, just that sort of thing. And then from then on, I'll start really, looking for structures, looking for fish.
Yep.
That's kind of how I usually break a lake down. But I would say when you're actually scoping for floating fish, pelagic fish, half the time it's actually bait ball fish, like they're in the bait, and another half they're just floating on their own hunting. Huh. I think that varies lake to lake, just kind of what's more common, I guess.
Sure. Interesting. And I guess the total amount of forage you find is probably the determining factor in that?
Yeah, I would say they go hand in hand.
Okay. Huh.
I mean, we had a college tournament at Table Rock a couple of weeks back, and there's really not that much shad in there. When you did find it, it's loaded with fish, but usually it's just the fish that you're finding, no bait. So that lake was kind of hard in that aspect to do my whole bait mindset deal.
Did their mood seem to change if there's bait around versus not?
Usually when you find a fish in a bait ball, all you got to do is get the bait. All you got to do is get them to see the bait, and they'll eat it.
Yeah.
We saw it. I don't know how much everyone follows Major League Fishing still, but my buddy Drew Gill at Dale Hollow, he had found fish all over the lake, but he started honing in on the fish around bait balls just because they were that much easier to get to bite, just because they were actively feeding.
Sure.
Which really made sense to me.
He seems like a really simpleton scoper.
He's the most dialed in scoper. They're probably one of the most there is right now. He's another level.
Can you explain him a little bit as to why and how, why that is?
Since day one, when scope came out, he took it into his game 100%, even more than I did.
Sure.
He committed to it 100%, just saying I'm gonna master this, and me, I wanna master everything still, not just scope. But he was like, I'm mastering this, I'm doing this,
100%.
This is what I'm gonna do.
Huh.
It's kind of crazy. You should have him on sometime and
I'd love to
pick his brain about it.
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. 'Cause where does he live now? Texas?
I think he's still in Illinois.
Illinois? Yeah, I should definitely. Yeah, probably have to get his info from me and reach out to him. 'Cause it seems like he'll throw a shaggy head, a Nika rig, and a minnow, and maybe a drop shot.
All spinning rod usually.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed. I don't know if I've ever seen a bait caster on the front of his deck.
Not very often, but he's a guy that he uses scope everywhere. A lot of people think scope is just good for you got to get in the middle of the lake, blah blah blah, and fish those fish. But it's a very good tool for fishing the bank too. He literally beats the bank with scope. Shallow water, right on the bank, and he'll throw his little Nico or Wacky or whatever up there and just catch him that way. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, he uses it a completely different way that a lot of people really aren't onto yet, I would say.
And doing it shallow, I guess there's a little something to settings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what's your advice for people who maybe want to get into scope and shallow for their settings? And this is a personal question as well.
Yeah, it's really personal preference. But me, I'm a guy who wants to see everything. I don't want to filter anything out. I usually have my gain a lot higher than most people. You don't want it too high where you can't see your bait or anything. You just there's a happy medium, and playing with that, you'll find it. And there's color gain and all that stuff. I have all that on default.
Sure. That's
where I found it to be the best. Time variable gain, I always have that on low. That's another thing. I just don't want to filter stuff out.
Yep. What about getting to see your bait splash? What's best? Because that seems to be an important facet, right? You can see your bait splash, or not so much.
There's times where, the fish are literally on the surface, and that's when it's more important. But other than that, it's...
I feel like when it's windy and you want to make sure you made the right cast, I feel like that's when I would want.
Yeah.
I feel like because I'm not as good as you, I would always want to see the bait splash.
I mean, when it's windy, though, there's so much noise up there from the waves
true.
crashing and stuff.
It's true.
It'd still be hard, but...
Right.
to see the surface, you can go in and mess with your pitch angle.
Yeah, that's what I've seen guys do. Do you do that most of the time?
Like when they're, like I said earlier, when they're like literally on the surface is when I'll play with that. You can either do that or you can go in and tilt your transducer one click up.
That's what I've done in the past.
That'll do the same thing.
Sure. Why don't you just keep it there? What's the drawback of not just keeping it there?
I guess I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to be jacking with it when fish are on the surface or 15 feet down. I want it to work from 30 feet or 50 feet to 0 feet.
I guess
I just want to adjust my depth.
Yeah. I've just gotten so used to it. Does look a little bit different when you do that. I've just gotten so used to how I had it before that I only change it to have it like that when I really need it, I guess.
Sure.
And it just goes back to personal preference.
Personal preference. Yeah. That makes sense. It's crazy. What do you think's the most important thing with being good at live scope? Casting accuracy? I feel like that is like the most important thing. Or is that?
Yeah. I mean, an example of this, I took one of my really good buddies from school. He's a classic Coosa angler guy. He swims a jig and he flips. That's what he does year round.
Yep.
And he's been bugging me like, I want to learn this scope thing. And this is back near when we did the last podcast and we were catching him good doing that. And so I took him out and first cast I threw at one. I caught like a 4.5 spot and he was just like, he was tripping. Yeah. And he was just like, let me do this. And I was like, okay. I gave him the trolling motor and I just sat in the passenger seat and watched, and it took almost an hour for him to catch one. And he was just like, man, I thought this was easy. Like, this is not easy. Like, it's way harder than it looks. And I was like, because he used to be a scope hater. He's just like, you just go out there and catch them. And I was just like, okay, well, show me.
Yeah.
And it didn't go that way, but, you know, we did that. We scoped most of the day, and he did get better and better. And, you know, it doesn't take that long really to get more and more dialed in with it. It just takes time on the water like anything else.
That's what I noticed playing with it, but I'm curious as to like the cone angle and the distance you like to catch them at, because you've told me some pretty short distances, and I'm just curious, like, from a distance perspective, it seems like there's something to that, and it seems like the fish are going to be less aware of you the further you are out, but that scope also has a wider angle. Mm-hmm. So how dialed in are you to like the width of your cone angle and distance, and I guess what's your process with all that?
Yeah, so I guess now I'm running it at 100 feet pretty much all the time. Unless I'm out in the open water and hunting a fish down, I'll move the range out to 150. We talked about that last time.
Oh yeah, yep.
But where I'm trying to hit the fish, I feel like 50 feet and in is where you can accurately hit a fish within range of them being able to see your bait.
Sure.
So, but as soon as you get further out than 50, it's a crapshoot. You're throwing, it's hard to hit one at that far. Your co-angle's so wide. But yeah, 50 feet and in is where I'm really trying to actually target that fish.
Sure. Will you throw with their 80 or 100? And
generally no.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But you'll kind of position the boat to figure out which way they're swimming. How long will you, I guess, position and shine a fish before you cast at it?
When I spot one at 100 and he's coming in, I'm trying to see how big he is and, like you said, what direction he's trying to go. And then by the time he's in at 50, I normally know exactly how he's swimming, how big he is, if it's one that's worth throwing at.
Are you moving the boat based on to stay the right? Because sometimes they'll come at you, and you're like...
That's when you get one shot, and if you don't hit it, it's screwed up.
Got it.
You just move to the next one.
Got it. Huh. Is there a way you prefer them swimming? Like from your deucer? Like sideways, away from you, towards you? Like, have you noticed, like, you have a preference on that? It seems like if they're swimming away from you, they're going to keep swimming away, and they don't come back.
Yeah, but... when they are swimming sideways, it's pretty easy that you can, just a little bit of time, you can tell. Just, if they're swimming to the right, you can. It's hard to describe. It just takes time. I don't know if you know what I'm saying.
I do, and is that kind of the main thing you're looking for? Is direction they're swimming?
Mm-hmm.
And then are you leading them?
Oh yeah.
Based on how?
There's times where, the fish will be 20 feet down, and I've seen multiple times this year where you have to sink it like a half ounce, or not a half ounce, an eighth ounce head all the way down to them, but just because they want to bite a heavier head.
I can see that.
And that's when you really have to know exactly how much to lead them and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it reminds me of there was this game when smartphones first came out. It was called Paper Toss. Have you heard of that game?
Oh, I played that game.
It's a fun game, right? And the wind would change, and you'd have to throw the paper into the thing. And that's how I feel like it's kind of like you're playing paper toss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With your scope. And how heavy your bait is, how deep that fish is, how fast that fish is swimming, all changes how far you need to lead that fish. And I guess it's got to take an extreme amount of time on the water just to kind of have that process dialed in to feel confident doing it day in and day out. And I guess, what have you noticed about fish speed changing? Like, it seems like the faster they swim, the harder they are to scope. And I guess, what have you noticed with like, what's the slowest fish and like what's the
for me, the faster they're swimming, the harder they are to hit. But if you get them to see your bait, they're usually going to bite when they're hauling butt.
Gotcha.
So I've gotten to the point now where it changes every lake, but like the Coosa, if a fish isn't moving, I don't even throw at it now.
Really?
It's either not going to bite or it's a catfish or something. Spots rarely just sit there.
Well, like Cody Huff, I know, like he was known for a heavier head, really small hook, really small bait. And I feel like the way he was describing the fish he was scoping is fast, right? Have you noticed any hacks for like when the fish are moving faster versus when the fish are moving slower? Do you make adjustments with your jig head profile size based on that? And if so,
this all depends what lake you're on. Yeah. It's lake to lake. Every fish is different. But like Coosa River, I throw like a 3/8 ounce head pretty much all the time. They don't care. You just got to hit them.
Got it.
But you go like Table Rock where I was just at, those fish, it's super clear water, and you got to have your presentation perfect or they're not touching it. That's when you really have to mess with your stuff, baits and head sizes and all that, just to really get dialed in.
Sure. How many typically, like, if you're going to dial in a lake, right? How many jig head minnow variations will you have on your front deck day one of dialing that in?
I'll start with just one.
Okay.
And if I do, get clued in, if that's going to be a deal, that's when the rest of them will start coming out.
I got you.
It's usually not the first deal I look for, honestly.
Sure.
But
interesting. What's the first deal you look for? The bait.
And then.
So that's the second deal you look for.
Then. The first deal I'm gonna look for is the structure deal, brush piles and that sort of thing, just because. But from then I'll start looking out in the abyss and stuff.
Why are you looking for brush piles over the abyss? Do you feel like it's more reliable? I feel like brush piles. They're more reliable.
They're not more reliable. Well, I mean, it's just a place you can roll up and just make 2 casts, and if they're not there, you leave. But I say that, and I probably shouldn't say this, but those floating fish are a lot more predictable and a lot more patternable than most people realize.
Really?
It's just as patternable as a bank usually.
Interesting.
Like, no, I'm not gonna say that.
No problem, dude. I won't. Like I said, dude, I appreciate anything you're willing to give, and the most important thing is you making the Elite Series this year. So if there's gonna be anything spoken that's gonna call that into question, then cut, motherfucker. But okay, do we need to stop even digging on that?
No.
I want to ask so many things right now. So I got to imagine wind.
Huge player. Huge.
Like
shallow, deep, anywhere. You got
percentage-wise, wind. But you got a big reservoir, and usually there's bait stacked up in a certain section of that reservoir. Has that been easy to pattern? To figure out where the bait's going to be, like if we're looking at it from like we're zoomed out on the whole fucker. Mm-hmm. Like, do you know where the bait's at?
No.
Are you typically able to kind of guess?
I mean, for me, just my style, I'm always going to pick the lower end of the lake near the dam. It's a clear water. It's just that's just more my roots being from here in Minnesota.
Sure.
That's just the section of lake I'm always going to pick, but that doesn't mean...
It's the most Pokegama-like section. It makes sense. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean there's no bait up in the river section either, so...
Got it. Interesting. But wind seems to dictate in that section of lake. You fish more the wind the day before or wind the day up?
It depends how strong it is. If there's a 25-mile-an-hour wind on the south, I'm going to fish the south-facing stuff.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Even if it's blowing 25 into them still?
Mm-hmm. Always use the wind to your advantage. Always.
Just throwing a spinner buggy or are you minoring in that?
No, that's a time where I'm going to pick a shallow point where that wind's crashing over. I'm going to go sling something.
Square bill on it or something or mag draft.
That'd be a perfect time where fish are just predictable in wind. The scope fish, the shallow fish, it just helps a lot to really eliminate water.
What's been the biggest challenge you faced on like the Open so far that kind of gave you like an eye opener of like I need to step this part of my game up or I need to, you know what I mean? Like I feel like every day fishing is full of lessons, right? But I feel like there was something like maybe you ran into that. Like, do you have a weak spot? Like, I've asked a few guys this, and I don't know if you have a weak spot.
I guess it hasn't been. I mean, I haven't seen that yet. It's just I just get reminded every day. I just got to keep a strong mindset. That's the biggest thing for me, at least so far.
What's the difference between 25th and 5th? And what's the difference between 15th and 1st?
In the point standings?
No, every day. What do you think the biggest difference is? Like in those places, is it boat draw and like getting your stuff right? Is it like how much can play into this? How much you lose a fish and you're 25th?
An example of
everybody loses one.
So I was the day before the tournament on Logan Martin. I found this shallow back of a pocket. It's a community pocket, but it had bigs the day before, and I was jacked up to get in there. I get my moat number, and I'm boat 4. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna get that place. And I roll in there, and first cast, my swim jig, a 4 or 5 pounder jumps over my swim jig and into the water. I'm just like, okay. I keep going, and a 3 pounder flushes it. I set the hook. He comes all the way out of the water and like lands right in front of me, comes off. And this was just an example where you got to be mentally strong and just not get flustered, not get spun out. And I ended up only leaving that place with 1 3 pounder, and I thought I was going to wreck like 17 and pretty much be done that for the day. Yeah. And that was just a prime example that usually in the Opens I've learned that it doesn't go exactly how you plan it. You just got to roll with the punches and just stay strong and just, keep grinding and, just trust that you'll run into them at some point during the day.
How much have you scrapped of like your practice and ran? How much new water have you run tournament day?
A lot.
Really?
Other than Okichobee, pretty much every event I've ran new water.
How much? Like how much of your day has been spent running new water? Like half?
Probably a good half. Like at Logan Martin, let's see, day one was almost no new water, and I had 12 pounds, I think. I was in like 45th or something. Day 2, I didn't scrap everything, but I scrapped about half my stuff. I started in a place where I'd found in practice. It was a grass line, and I just thought it set up right for a shad spawn. I just remembered that grass line. I was like, man, that'd be a good place to start. I roll in there, and I caught a 4.5, like my second cast on a horny toad. And, for that week, that's like a giant. Yeah. I was like, holy moly. And then ended up not getting any more bites there. I don't know how, because the shad were spawning like crazy. But I ran all the way to the bottom end of the lake and caught a 4 pounder of a brush pile, scoped it. And I hit 2 for 8 pounds.
Damn.
And from then on, it was a grind. I ended up weighing 13 pounds. I had 2 pound-and-a-halfers. That's just, you just got to roll with your gut and just, if you have an idea, just run with it. Don't even second guess it.
You have an example of how that worked out in any recent events, like college events or anything like that? Like you won 2 college events in a row, then you had second on Kentucky Lake, and it seemed like that lake was getting just dicked on.
Yeah, I mean, Table Rock is an example. So we had 2 areas that we had found. So funny story at Table Rock, I wasn't actually going to practice at all. I had a bunch of tests that week, and I knew I was going to be gone for Logan Martin, so I had to stay back. And so Nick took his boat up there and started practicing. And he did pretty good in practice. It started out, he found a bunch on beds, and then a cold front came in, like always does, and pushed him out. And he was able to relocate him out deep. And then I think it was not the day before the tournament, but the day before that, like second day practice. And he sent me a Snapchat. He broke 2 rods and 2 casts. And he's like, come on, man, like something good's got to happen.
Hello, Bastronauts. Introducing the new demo program from Vocelka Fishing and Customs. That's right. You can try a rod before you buy it. If you're fishing the Team Trail or the Champions Tour this upcoming season, you're eligible for this. There's no down payment. There's no upfront purchase required. Just contact Mr. Vocelka before the event. And let's say you want to try a new hair jig rod out for Okichobee or Mille Lacs, or you need a new tube rod going into a smallmouth event. Contact Mr. Vocelka ahead of time, and you can actually try that rod out in practice before you buy it. You have to return it before tournament day, though, unless you're going to buy it, because these things are weapons. They're absolute weapons. So that's the new demo program from Vocelka Fishing and Customs. Contact Dane today and schedule the finest rod using experience north of the Mason-Dixon. Most tournament anglers and guides are not covered fully or properly. Most insurance policies don't cover exposure due to tournaments and guiding. Taking the chance of using the wrong insurance gives the insurance company an out when settling a claim. How will the insurance company know that you're fishing tournaments or guiding? Well, social media is their #1 resource. And guess what? They use it. Lake Country Insurance offers one of the only products that can cover both tournament and guiding use in your vessel. Anglers don't seem to hesitate spending $50,000 to $100,000 for a boat. Why risk that large asset, all because you wanted to save a few extra shekels? Are you nuts? Call the folks at Lake Country Insurance today and make sure you have the proper coverage for your boat before the unexpected happens. Call 612-285-3113 today, or visit their website, lcisagency.com. That's lcisagency.com.
After this, and I was like, I laughed, sent a snap back, whatever, and like I ended up leaving that morning, like 4 a.m. to drive up there. I was just gonna jump in with him. We're gonna use his boat, and I'm in downtown Memphis, and I get a snap from him, and it's full of water in his boat, and he was just like, now something really good has to happen after this. He had just put a hole in his boat and totaled his boat.
Oh,
almost sank, hit a tree.
Oh, he hit a tree?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
And it was actually, it could have been a really bad situation there.
Yeah.
One of my teammates actually saw it happen and came up to him and was able to go grab his trailer and bring it to a nearby ramp. He had to just do donuts in front of the ramp so it wouldn't fill up with water.
Oh my gosh, dude.
But
Bill was just burning out, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
So he just, like, was it a fixed tree?
Mm-hmm. It was in 80 feet of water, he said, middle of a pocket where people would run all the time. And he sat down to fish a spot and just sat down right on top of it. He said it wasn't even a loud thump. It was just like, he bumped trees. Like that's not uncommon. And he said it wasn't 5 seconds and the build started, and he was just like,
my boat's a shish kebab. Thunk.
So I get this text.
Shit.
I'm in downtown Memphis, 4 hours from school. I'm like, well, do I need to go get my boat? And he's like, yes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So drive all the way back to school. Ended up being like an 18-hour driving day.
Holy shit.
But it was just funny how that worked out. He was like, just something really good has to happen now. And then sure enough, we ended up winning that tournament. It was kind of funny how that happened.
Totally. Scoping off that tree stab.
He didn't want to go back and see it. I asked him that too.
We just go check it quick.
I was like, we got to see what it is. Like, it could be like something cool. Like,
for sure.
He was like, no, we're not going back there.
Man, dude, hitting shit sucks. You had to, like, how do you deal with how much sketchy shit have you had to run so far?
Santee was bad.
Seems like Santee was bad. Yeah.
It was definitely probably the second worst place I've been to. Ross Barnett was by far the
I've heard
worst.
that one. It's
That place has rebar,
stumpy.
which is terrible.
Oh,
Yeah, it's scary. But
that'll
Santee,
fuck a boat up.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so Santee.
Santee, I guess it's not that bad if you're not dumb. You know, if you want to risk it and run over a shallow flat, you're just asking for it, and that's when most of it happens.
Did you pre-practice that one?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, I haven't pre-practiced any opens yet.
Are you happy you haven't?
I think so, yeah. I think it's helped me make more decisions on the fly, which helps.
Do you
Usually, I
wish you
think.
wouldn't have pre-practiced Grand?
No, because nothing I found in Grand helped me in pre-practice.
So you wish you wouldn't have?
It was useless.
Yeah.
It didn't help or didn't hurt. So
Sure.
I guess it's always a confidence boost just to know how to drive around. I guess just to
Know your way around.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like if you scan structure, and you just don't fish, and you just understand the landscape a little bit better, it can't hurt you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you program yourself too much in pre-practice,
That's when it
you
hurts.
don't go back till, yeah. How much fishing did you do versus just looking in pre-practice?
I hardly fished at all.
Yeah.
And I was mainly marking brush, and I know it played for some people, but for me, I don't think I caught a fish out of brush in the tournament.
Sure.
So
I meant to ask you this before when we were talking about it, but you said you start with 1 minnow. You got 1 minnow on your deck. Okay. So what size head is that, and what minnow is that? Like, you're starting with 1, and if that starts to play, then you'll grab more. What's your indicator? What's your number one? What's your first weapon?
my indicator minnow would be either a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce head with either a Z2 or a Z-Man streaks.
Sure.
And I would throw that at fish just to see if I can get a reaction.
If they move towards it, or even
if they react to it at all, if they grab onto it, great. All I need for them is to react to it, and then I'm zoned in. Then I'll figure out how to catch them.
Got it. What's the difference between a Z2 and a Streaks? Because it seems like a Z2 has more salt, and a Streaks has like none. And why do you like a Streaks versus Z2? Been meaning to ask you that.
I guess for me, it's a Z2 is a little bit less durable, just because of the salt. But I do think the Z2 has a little bit more tail action than the Streaks.
Sure.
But then you can go up to the 4-inch Streaks because they make a 3, 4, and 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And the 4-inch will get just as much tail action as the 3-inch.
Sure. Do you think it hovers better being there's less salt, and that's why you like it, or what? More durable. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, though.
Yeah, that's really it. Usually when I'm scoping, I'm not worried about hovering, and I'm swimming it over their heads.
Yeah.
So the buoyancy really doesn't matter to me that much. I guess it's more the durability.
You just hate re-rigging it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Usually it's all about efficiency, getting back in there as fast as you can.
What's your favorite color Z2?
There's a bunch of different colors. It
What's
depends.
your 3 favorites? If you had to pick 3.
Arkansas Shiner is probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. I like the deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good color.
But I would say, as funny as it sounds, I would say color really usually doesn't matter. As long as it's some minnow variation.
Do you think size matters more than color?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Do you like? I feel like a bigger minnow is like seems to get bigger bites. Is that true or no?
Is that because you're throwing at bigger fish?
I don't know. I've just heard some. I don't know shit, Easton. You're a scoper, not me.
I mean, a place like Gunnersville, when they're schooled up on a ledge, that's where I could see the bigger minnow playing, triggering that bigger bite. But
what's the biggest minnow you throw? What's the littlest one? The 3 one, but what's the biggest minnow you like to scope with, consistently? 5-inch?
The 7 Sakamata.
7 Sakamata.
Mm-hmm.
What's fancy about the Sakamata that everybody's hyping about? Because you can't even buy one of them. The Sakamata is sold out worldwide. Wide.
I don't know. It just has that perfect shimmy. If you have the right head, right action. I mean the right head size and the right hook size.
Sure.
It just gets that. It just gets a roll that they just can't resist, I guess.
It's just not as durable as that Streaks.
Oh yeah, you'll spend some money if you start catching on that thing. But yeah, that's another reason why I start with the Streaks and go from there.
That makes sense. You like the drift fry too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Drift fries, yeah, they all have a time and a place. I don't know. I have like a fancy minnow category and like a stupid minnow category.
That makes sense.
And you just got to pick a couple of each and just run with it.
Yep.
In my eyes.
Sure.
Because the fancy ones are the ones that'll do mainly all the rolling, and the dumb ones will just do the little tail wheel. It's weird. Every lake's different. You just got to try both of them.
That makes sense. Are you pretty much always shaking, or have you found a scenario where you can't, where like imparting action with the rod actually gets you less bites?
I'm always shaking in some variation.
Sure.
Sometimes it's harder shakes, softer shakes. That's just something you have to play with.
Yep.
Because with the fancy minnows, how you shake it determines how much it'll roll. Sometimes you can just get to shimmy, or sometimes you can really, make it roll 180 degrees. It just depends how active they are and stuff.
Sure. Fancy minnows, fancy pants minnows, fancy minnows. Do you think there's something to it? And how far do you think, what's some non-traditional, scoping baits? Like when it's not a minnow, it's a jerk bait, it seems like. If it ain't a minnow, it's a jerk bait. But what's another scope bait that you've made work that's maybe not as traditional?
I got some, I'm going to call them fancy creature baits. Not going to name them, but they're another tool, especially over brush piles and stuff.
Sure. Fancy creatures that you free rig, or you
I do free rig a little bit. That's something I need to get into more. I see a lot of aspects where that would play.
Sure.
But usually those creature baits, I'm just wacky rigging, Nico rigging. But yeah, I do.
So
I do
Nico rigging creature baits.
I do. I was just gonna say I Nico rig a worm all the time on scope too.
Yeah, I know you like a.
I love a Nico rig is.
Oh,
it's a bad dude.
It's one of my favorites. Yeah, and I throw it more and more every year. I like doing it.
That's another thing too. Weight size is big. You can trigger basically any fish you want with a Nico rig.
What's the heaviest versus lightest that you like? What's your variance in a Nico?
I go all the way down to a 64th, basically wacky rig, just sink that just a tiny bit faster, and all the way up to. I've thrown 3/8 before, the screw-in ones, the tungsten screw-ins. I don't even know who makes those, but it's all about just playing each fish and just getting a feel.
Sure. The Nico rig and a creature bait, though, I guess that's a little bit unique. Do you just find you'll throw a Nico worm and that and see which one they like better type of thing?
Mm-hmm.
And you're starting to notice they're liking that creature a little better sometimes?
It just goes back to every fish is different. Mm-hmm. They all have a different personality, I guess.
How many baits do you throw at one brush pile typically?
Once I get dialed in, it's just one or two.
Yep.
In practice is when I'm, I have, it's bad how many rods I have out in practice.
Oh, same.
But I mean, in the tournament too, but it's just because I'll fish a brush pile and then some grass and then.
Maybe I want to fuck around over here for a while.
I'm really a mess, but it's a calculated mess.
Well, you and I get along good, except I bet you're a little less messy than me. Is there a way do you have a system on keeping your rods tidy, like in a boat? Like, you wrap them? You do the?
I do wrap them. Mm-hmm.
All of them.
All of them.
Every single one.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lightest line you have thrown this year?
The lightest line, watch tie through 8 pound, Okichobee, 8 pound.
8 pound?
8 to 8.
Nice. I got to pee, and I feel like we got to check our starting hole.
Yeah.
Real quick. So, cool. So, you just threw the Okasana slide off my dock for the first time, and you lost a big one. What'd you think of that bait? Good bait?
It's a good bait. I can see some uses for that bait.
I'm hoping I can catch some smallmouth on that bait. Waypoint got some in, and I'm like,
If nothing else, it'll be a heck of a search bait.
I think so. I think it'll be just a good locator.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I don't know what the right day is for glide or the right conditions where it's I need to pick this up and throw this right now, versus just having it be that tool. I feel like 50% of the time you land that fish, though. But I don't know if any of us were expecting that bite. So probably didn't help, right? But
mid cast is, man, that'd be cool to get a bite. And boom.
Yeah, what were you? Yeah, you're like, man.
I just want to see it disappear.
I just want to see it disappear, and then it did.
Yeah.
Pulverized. And you taught me how to catch one off a minnow off the dock there in 3 feet of water.
Yeah. No scope needed.
Z2, baby.
Yeah.
That's
Z2.
crazy. So, which tournament are you most excited about now moving forward?
I mean, I gotta say Leech. It's one I go to bed thinking about every night.
Yeah. I can't blame you.
But other than that, Saginaw Bay College Tournament.
That one sounds fun too. Leech is hard to bring up because, like, I don't want to jinx you in any way, shape, or form. Like, I want to bring up Leech, but I don't want to jinx you because I feel like, I don't know. I'm just curious how, because how many guys you fish against? And you said there's company in every event.
That's
so
what
far,
I'm
right?
curious to see.
You know?
'Cause 5 days of, I don't care where they go, they're going to find everything. So I'm curious to see, like, you know, I think I have some sneak holes out there, but I'm pretty sure I'm just be like, how did you find that? How did you find that? Like, that sort of thing.
Sure.
I'm kind of mentally preparing myself for that, but
I think you gotta, like, yeah. I'm just curious how many different ways guys catch them out there, because it seems like it is a very, like, you can fish a lot of water out there without a bite.
yeah. And then you think about a 3-day tournament,
Right.
hopefully.
Right.
How do you manage that?
Right.
There's a lot of variables, and also 225 boats, 5 days. How does it handle that pressure?
Right.
There's just so much. I'm really curious to see how it all shakes out.
Are you nervous?
No, not really. It's just like any other tournament. Just gotta work hard and see how it shakes out.
Yep. Don't overthink it. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's dig into some stuff here. Some stuff. Yeah. I want to dig into some stuff. What's some weird stuff people are doing on tour? Or what's some weird stuff that you've been playing with? Like non-traditional baits that you've been playing with. And stuff that, there's always stuff that those guys, those Opens guys, those Elite Series guys are throwing. And, you know, we're not going to talk about a few of them, but there's definitely a few that probably maybe fly under the modern radar. I know Waypoint's got some new shit that seems to be catching stuff, but are you always playing with different stuff and always toying with stuff?
Usually, yeah, but I guess I'm guilty the last couple, or really since the beginning of this year. I haven't really been on top of the trends like I normally am. It's been tournament. I haven't really had much playtime.
Right.
But you know, I'm always scrolling the internet, looking on the Japanese stuff, just looking for the next big thing. But yeah, this year I have my lineup, and I've just been going everywhere with that lineup.
Sure.
So far.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm always looking for that new thing. Always.
Are you willing to talk about how you won a bunch of tournaments this past December? Or November, or on Home Pond there?
On Lake?
Yep. Didn't you guys, like, you and Dumpke kind of put a mopping on some local stuff during that time?
Mm-hmm.
Doing some interesting, weird stuff that I'm like, I remember we were talking on the phone, and I'm like my mind was blown.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand if you don't want to share that.
No, we can talk about it. Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
Okay.
It was mainly a scope deal. It's some of it bait ball, some of it not, just like we were saying before. But I told you in the podcast before how conditions, how much it matters. And, you know, I told you about how, you know, a small cloud can go over the sky, and that can just change everything for, you know, a couple minutes. And it's just, you know, just paying attention to everything, and just, you know, that dang live scope teaches you so much. It's honestly wild, but yeah, I guess fire off some questions.
Well, you were telling me some about how hard your bait was hitting the water.
Oh, yeah. That's, yeah. So,
And how far away from the boat it was, and I was just like mind blown on. And I'm like, I'm not wanting to just like, I respect you, bro. So I'm not wanting to like say much more if
No,
you're not wanting me to than that. But that was like one of the, I think, something that makes you a different angler than other anglers. And I think it, like, that story would really showcase that, I guess. And I don't know how much of a trick that is that you maybe don't need to share it, right? Because it sounds like you and Dumpke, how many tournaments did you win in that window of time?
I fished so many tournaments since then. It's kind of all a blur, but we did go on a little bit of a tear there for about a month or month and a half period.
Kind of scoping out in the abyss, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember right, you told me every fish was 40 feet away from the boat, like 5 feet, less than 5 feet below the surface,
mm-hmm.
and you almost had to smack them.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of them. They're moving so fast. You know, they're hunting. They're looking for the next shad, and sometimes that's what it takes. Is you got to make as much commotion as possible, and just to get their attention, just because they're moving so fast.
How are they just not give a shit about the boat 40 feet away from them, and then all of a sudden you just had to smack it?
Mm-hmm. Just to get their attention, yeah. And you know, they'll be sometimes when they're moving that fast, you can't even tell how big they are just because it's weird on scope when they're moving that fast. It's just like a faint mark, super faint, and then you hit them. If you hit them right, they'll just light up, and next thing you know, it's taken off with your bait. Like, that's how fast it all happens.
Are we talking about a 40-foot bitch slap or like a 40-foot light slap?
No, it's hard. I mean, we're using
it's a bitch slap.
Yeah, we're using
okay
3/8 ounce head, and it makes a big splash.
So you a 3/8 ounce head,
mm-hmm.
and they're 5 feet under the water.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they bite it before they can even think about what it is.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's all reaction.
How do you make that like, it's 40 feet away? Like, is that from here to the ping pong table? How far? Like
probably the back corner of the ping pong table.
Okay. So what does that cast like then? Is it
it's
like
using long heavier rod? And
okay.
it's just it's overhand. It's usually when I'm scoping, it's underhand. Like, I'm usually more accurate that way, but when you're doing this, it's overhand, and it's like you're pitching a baseball, like you're throwing a fastball at them. Just whoosh. Yeah.
Dude, how'd you figure that deal out?
I don't know. I learned pretty quickly you have to hit them like on the head, or they're not seeing your bait. They're moving fast. Those keep going. So I just had to figure something out just to even get their attention.
Were you just pissed off because you couldn't catch them one day, and you're like,
well, yeah, because I was throwing the light heads, just thinking, oh, you got to be.
That's what I would think.
Mm-hmm. But those Coosa River fish, they don't care. They see a shad, they're attacking. Mm-hmm.
Fucking damn.
But
and no one else was doing that.
I mean, not at the time, other than Wesley. He knows about it just because
you're tight.
We're close like that.
I got you. Do you want to cut that out? Good.
Yeah, we can leave it.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We'll leave out how to pattern those fish.
I don't want Gordon calling me. I want Gordon on my ass.
We'll leave out the rest of it. They can know that.
Deal. Yep. Deal. So what? How's Gordon feeling? Gordon's got to be the proudest father right now. Gill-Daddy's daddy has got to be the happiest father right now, and just loving it. How often are you guys talking?
All the time.
All the time. Yeah.
I'm always sending him practice updates and night before the tournament game plan type stuff. He loves it.
Geeking out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I bet he's just loving every minute of it. I can't imagine if my son was doing. I don't even have a son, but if I did, and he was doing Gill-Daddy things like you, I would be ecstatic. So, congrats, Gordon. Congrats, Easton, dude. So, is it still kind of surreal? Has it been kind of like surreal? Like,
oh yeah.
Are you still floating? Like, have you not landed?
No, I'm still floating.
I got you.
Yeah, it was. I'm super thankful I had the finish I did at Okichobee, just because how much of a mental boost that was. Just because when I went out that morning, it was me, Tharp was in front of me, and Brandon McMillan was behind me, and I was just like,
damn.
I was just like, this is insane.
Talk about a hit of a lineup.
Yeah.
like Okichobee.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'd be mentally where I am right now if I didn't have a good finish there. I think that was just such a kickstart and such a boost mentally.
Have you ever felt like mentally beaten in your mind? Like, is that something that, you know what I mean? Like, that helped you, but would it have hurt you not to have a good finish there? You know, like, have you felt that your mentality has changed throughout you fishing tournaments at all? Like, the only time I guess that I know of that you're beaten was, and I didn't even know it at the time, but that time we caught one in front of you on Tonka was like, and it, like, is that the only time you've been mentally flustered? Like, what, like, has there been a low point in your career where you're like, man, and your career, you're still really young, but like, has there been a point in time when you're like, man, I ain't good enough? And like, man, it's, you know, has that meant, like, talk to me about the mental evolution of your mental game with that.
I guess early in me and Nick's college career, we had just an absurd amount of boat problems. And that was really hard mentally because, you know, we'd have a good practice and then we wouldn't be able to even get to our fish. And I think,
dude, that makes sense.
I think that could be a reason just taught me to roll with the punches. You know, whatever's thrown at you, just make the best of it.
Yeah.
I think that's honestly a big part of it. Taught me how to be mentally prepared, I guess.
And like when shit did break and you would make, like, have you ever had like broken shit and you still had a good day or a good finish, like with broken stuff, where you made the best of that, or not really?
I guess nothing is glaring at me, but I gotta believe because it happened so much.
Yeah.
It was bad my dad always thought that someone was doing pranks on us. It was that bad.
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy, but you know, knock on wood, we're doing a little bit better now.
Sure.
Boat wise.
I guess where that question came from is I think probably the biggest, like, one of the big mental evolutionary learning lessons in my life was that tournament on Mille Lacs with Nick Gross, NABC. I think it must have been 2015 or 2016. Had just got that first Triton demo boat, and I had 12-foot talons on the back. And at takeoff that morning, I looked back and they were gone.
Both of them.
Gone. And the boat was riding pretty good, you know, and we had taken off out of the southeast corner of the lake, and that was the area of the lake I had an awful practice in, so not much confidence, right? All my shit was everywhere else, if that makes sense. These talons were gone. I'd go to the back deck, and they're just dangling there. And my top two jack plate bolts had sheared right off. So the motor was seized up on those bottom two manual jack plate bolts. So I'm with Nick Gross, who's a neighbor of mine now, big mentor of mine. And I'll never forget. I mean, he kept my head on that day. I'll remember we called the tournament director and we're like, I was like, what the fuck do you do? You're floating there, and like, so we asked, like, if we could go to shore and get out of the water and, like, tilt these things back up. So we, like, you know, idled across, drug them across these reefs and, you know, drug them all shallow and get into this reed bay and strip down, get in the water. And Nick was very positive and calm the whole time. And me, this is the first demo boat. Like, this isn't my boat, mind you. This is me working for Intune Marine at this point. And this wasn't my stuff. So, like, I was really worried, right? That I was worried the motor was going to fall off the back of the boat. Was my main concern. But so we got the talons tilted back up, tied them to the back of the seat post or whatever. And Nick kind of just kept positive all day. It's like, we can't do anything about it, can't change it, and we can idle. We shouldn't go any faster than that, but we can idle. And we didn't have more than a 3-pounder at noon, but just kept our heads on, and sure as shit, idle over a spot, loaded, put the trolling motor down, catch 23 pounds or so, and we get like 6th or 7th place, but we cashed a check and nothing was broken. Talon still worked. We were only out like the 2 jack plate bolts is the only things that needed to be replaced. But like, I guess the point with that story is a lot of people would have put it on the trailer that day, or a lot of people would have given up mentally enough to not even keep scanning, because that's all we could do basically was scan. And kind of like, it gives you a lot of confidence, I guess, when you can understand that your attitude can change your day like that. And I guess I was just curious if you've seen, like, had any of... Hey guys, Aaron Teal here with Vocelka Fishing and Customs here, and excited to talk to you about my new signature series rod, the Puppet Master. My #1 confidence technique is by far offshore power finesse fishing. So we've spent a lot of time and a lot of years creating the perfect bottom contact power finesse rod, specifically designed to fish 3/8 to 3/4 ounce football jigs, tubes, swing heads, dragging a swim bait on the bottom, and any bait that you need to manipulate with your hand and land that fish. This rod is perfect for it. The big thing that we found that was an issue with other rods is they were either too crisp and sensitive, where they were too fast, or they weren't quite sensitive enough and they had the right action. So what Dane built with this rod is the most sensitive bottom contact rod I've ever held in my hands. But the big thing is, on a long cast, it's got the power to drive that hook home, but more importantly, it's got a parabolic action that's going to bend deep down in the rod to make sure that, let's say, football jig or goby tube isn't popping that smallmouth's mouth open and keeping that bait in the back of their head where it belongs, allowing you to have increased leverage and landing more bass. You're going to have to pry this rod from my cold dead hands. This is the Puppet Master. You can find it on VocelkaFishing.com or at Waypoint Angler Supply. Check them out.
Hey guys, Gaff with Waypoint Angler Supply here. Just wanted to highlight the fact that we have the big bass resource right here. Obviously, everybody in Minnesota knows about Kitex and the littler swim baits like these bait labs here. But we're here to have the big baits here in the store. We got Huddlestons. We've got the dangerous swim baits, the jointed claw glide baits, and the bull shooter glide baits. But it's not only the baits. We've got big rods, big reels, big line, and all that good stuff for you guys to go ahead and chase your biggest fish of your life. So swing on into Waypoint Angler Supply and get hooked up with the biggest tackle around.
Moments like that, or instances where, because it is such a mental sport, dude. You've taught me that. Guys like Noah have taught me that. I mean, so many people. It is such a mental sport, more so than anything.
I guess, I don't know if I finished my story about Logan Martin, how the fish missing my bait, that first thing.
I don't know if you finished it.
But yeah, I don't remember if I did, but that was...
I think you started it. I might have probably interrupted you or something.
but that's the thing with the... I guess going to school at Montevallo and being on Lake, I would have, because I just understand how the Coosa works, being that close to the Coosa River. Like, yeah. I guess I was thinking about all week, just being from Minnesota. If I would have just went straight down there and tried to fish that event, I would have been so spun out, just because my practice was absolutely terrible.
Sure.
But I just understand. I know how the Coosa works. Like, you just got to hit as many high percentage areas as possible, and 1 or 2 big bites can carry you through the tournament, and that's exactly what happened. But yeah, that first day of the tournament, I was all excited about getting that area where I had so many bites on the first day, and I only left with 1 3-pounder when I was expecting to basically just begin my day and end my day in that one area. And it would have been so easy just to fall off the tracks leaving that place, but I just knew, like, just got to keep grinding. Like, I think I left there at like 10 o'clock, so I had plenty of time. And I didn't have an outstanding day, but I salvaged the day for sure the rest of the day. And that was just one of the many scenarios where you just got to keep your head down and just roll with it and just trust that it'll happen.
Is there, like, do you talk to yourself in a way? Like, I do sometimes. Like, you have these kind of, like, affirmations, or it sounds stupid when you talk about it, right? But there's something to that. And Mr. Happy Gilmore would call it his happy place, or what have you. Or a guy would say that, or like if you like a Jocko Willink podcast watcher, when something happens, like, you say good, and do you have anything like, or Kevin Van Dam would say, like, first thing he does is says good, and I'm gonna catch another big one next cast or something, right? Is there something you do that helps you? mentally there, because losing them big ones will spin a guy out, dude.
I guess there's nothing in particular I do. I just got to trust yourself, and I guess it probably makes me work that much harder, makes me hit that many more places throughout the day.
Sure.
I mean, I had one of my good buddies, Emil Wagner, he texted me after day 2. He was like, dude, did you fish today? Just because he was scoping out in the middle of a place, middle of the river, and I don't know how many times I drove by him going 65. Meow, meow, meow. He was like, did you fish today, dude? And I was like, maybe not much. I burnt almost 40 gallons on this little place, but...
Do you think that hurts you ever? Do you feel like you need to burn less gas sometimes? Like,
I do think about that a lot. That's
you're pretty effective with your rod in the water, you know what I mean? Like, you're pretty deadly.
But at the same time, that's a lot of time where I don't have a bait in the water. I do think about that a lot, but I don't know. I cash a check, so...
Yeah.
I mean,
you're third in points, so I'd say...
I mean, me and Bo, we talked about this earlier. Bo asked me all the time how I do it, just because he can't wrap his mind around doing that much driving time on that small of a place. And I don't know, I just have this system that we both have completely different systems, and it just goes to show you just got to be confident and just do your thing.
So your system, let's get into your system a little bit. What is your, like, I understand your system from a vague perspective of I'm going to run and I'm going to hit as many spots as possible, but I also know there's probably a little more to it than that.
I guess the ideal tournament is where I can hit as many places as possible. That's where I tend to excel, I think. And how I practice for those events is I find as many structures, places where I think one may be at some point during the day, places like that. And that can be rock piles, brush piles, stumps, even a lay down, a mat of grass, just as many different types of places where I can just roll up, make a couple casts. If there's one there, I'll get a bite. If there's not, I'm gone. I'm to the next one. And I would like to show you how many waypoints I had on Logan Martin after practice. 5 days on that little lake. I mean, those straight waypoints.
That's awesome. I
mean, to a person that's not me, you wouldn't even know what to do with that. But for me, I have different waypoints for different stuff, and it's a mess to anyone else, but to me, it's calculated. I know what I'm looking at, and yeah, going into the tournament, I break it down. I'll run brush for a little bit. If that don't don't feel right, I'll run some rock, and maybe that'll start clicking. And if that don't click, maybe I'll hit some docks or something like that, and just till something clicks, and then that's what I'll run with the second half of the day.
So I guess I can relate with that, because honestly, that's pretty much how I roll with my Lowrance unit. Is in practice is I'm mapping that lake out structurally and giving myself what I'd call options. Like if we're talking football, we're running the option.
Mm-hmm.
We're running the play action, and we're running the option, or whatever the fuck that means. And there's magic, in my opinion, to that Lowrance waypoint management and your ability to create a set of data points that you can run with. And I guess it allows you to test positive and negative throughout the day as you're running a creek, I suppose, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, the brush is feeling a little right, but a little wrong, a little frisky, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to check some rock on the way out. There's one on a secondary point, and then there's one in between this secondary and primary next to this brush pile. It's a little bump out or whatever. And that you kind of test all that shit throughout the day. And then mm-hmm. I guess, do you have like, the problem is when you get so much waypoints, how do you know when you need to run that way to the far one? The one that's like way far away, when you have 100 of the same looking one in between. That's my question.
That's all gut feeling. But I guess how exactly I broke down Logan Martin is I had a shad spawn bite in the morning. Well, I guess the first morning I had just the back of that pocket. But The second morning I had that grass line I had found, which ended up being a shad spawn on it. And then after that, I went and hit some brush piles, and most of them had shad actually spawning on the brush piles. So the bass were just kind of weird, kind of goofy.
Okay.
So I was just like, okay, well, we'll give this some time. We'll come back to this. And actually went to a couple schools that I'd found, like ledge schools, like offshore, and went to one of them and filled my limit on it. And then by then the sun was up higher, and I thought maybe the shad spawn deal would be done, and that's when I went to that brush pile on the bottom end of the lake, caught that 4-pounder, and from then on, all the shad spawn was pretty much done, and the bass are starting to set up on all my structures correctly where I could target them.
What does that look like on your scope when you feel like they're set up correctly? Like, what does that look like? Is there bait present, and is it literally an activity level that is more active looking?
A general rule is the higher in the column a bass is sitting, the more active it is.
Okay.
Like if you have a brush pile and the bass is on top of it, you better get ready. 'Cause he's gonna
about to eat something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just a general rule. And sometimes, like every time I get a co-angler, I pray for him, because there's times where I put my troller down, I scan out a brush pile. If I don't see what I see, I don't even make a cast. I'm gone. And the co-angler probably just thinks I'm crazy. He's standing up, dead down. He's just getting a workout all day. And thankfully, I didn't get any co's at Logan Martin, or else they would have had a heck of a time.
Do any of your co's just start to just stay sitting? I'm just gonna wait.
I haven't had that yet, but I did watch E-Bear's co. He wasn't fishing. And like I told you earlier, me and E-Bear have shared a lot of water so far. And I've come to learn that we have the exact same style.
So he's lifting up and putting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But I haven't had one of them yet, and I've also only had like 5 co-anglers in my career so far, because it's the first year doing my opens.
I suppose, yeah. Have you had a co every day?
Logan, I didn't have one, and then every other day or every other tournament, I've had a co one day.
Okay. Would you rather have a co or not?
No, I don't want a co.
Yeah, nobody
just because I can have more rods out, and then I can put rods in the passenger seat even.
Right.
And it's just I can move that much faster and be that much more efficient.
Yep. No, I think there's definitely something to that with having co versus not. Have you? Yeah, that's an interesting variance.
And the co's are always wanting to talk, and tell stories, and I'm just like, I need to stay focused. We'll talk after, dude. We'll talk on the ride in.
Yeah,
and that's another aspect. The co's probably hate me, but
no, fuck them. Dude, you're there to do a job.
Yeah,
and you are focused on that, and that's the problem with me is I'm easily distracted. So Champions Tour, you get marshals, right? And we're talking kids.
Mm-hmm.
And some kids are great. And other kids, you want to punt them out the back of the boat. Not actually, but it's I get it that you want to ask a lot of questions right now, but it's really stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, though. I get it. I mean, you're Mr. Fothergill. They probably want to ask you a lot of questions. How are you using that there live scoper up there, boy? You seeing all them fish? You got any back by me? You ever have a guy ask you hey, you want to let me know if there's any back here?
I haven't yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
It's like the most southern redneck call. Culprit worm or die.
Floating worm.
Floating worm.
Methylate.
What's the weirdest thing you've seen a co catch a bass on or throw out of the back where you're like, whoa?
I had my first ever co at Okichobee. He was a Japanese guy. He was actually Kenta Kamira's best friend. Travels with him and stuff, and he makes his own chatterbaits. It's like a perfect cross between a chatterbait and a spinnerbait.
What?
It has the spinnerbait, the bend, and it has a chatterbait blade where the willow blades would be.
The grass piece.
Yeah, you have them?
Yeah, I got 4 of them.
He caught a couple in front of me on that. Well, behind me, ones that I had missed, and that was pretty cool to see. And just
I heard that's the place to throw it.
And he was throwing the grass. I mean, the bait itself isn't big, but he had a 7-inch trailer on it, and I was just like, dude, what?
Like a Sakamata shad or something? Or
it was something I've never seen. Straight white, just something I would never throw, and he caught him on it. And it was really cool to see.
What is that? How? I guess I almost want to go grab a couple right now, but how are you? Where do you see that bait being a cool deal, or what? Do you ever see yourself throwing that?
I honestly haven't even played with it yet.
Yeah.
He gave me 3 of them after that day, and I haven't played with them.
Get you that green pumpkin? Did you get green pumpkin one?
I did get one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got the golden shiner one.
I got 2 white ones and a green pumpkin.
I'll trade you the golden shiner ones for green pumpkin. I feel like you probably make better use of the golden shiner ones down in Florida.
We can make that happen.
Well, it depends what size. You use 3/8 or halves or 3/4.
I don't even know.
I don't even know. I have two
It's
halves.
it's probably
and two
grams, honestly.
3/4. I think I have 2 halves and 2 3/4. But you ever speedworm down in Florida?
All the time. That's like the Nico worm anywhere else. That's just a bite getter.
Dude, it's straight up bite getter. That's fun bait to throw down there.
Mhm.
I love that bait. What's your favorite Zoom speedworm, or you throw the Gambler burner worm, or you got like speedworm you like?
I don't think it wadders as long as that's a little kicker on the back and looks like a needlefish.
Yeah. Wesley and I were talking about like the fact that he has to shake a swim jig in Alabama but not in Florida. And it seems like up in Minnesota it's the case. Like I don't ever shake a swim jig up here.
I never have either, but I do shake it in Florida. It's interesting you said that.
Catch them shaking it in Florida?
Mm-hmm.
Better than not shaking it?
I think so. But I mean, usually in Florida, I'm working it so fast it's probably just a flash from their head. Where on the Coosa, you're shaking it sometimes pretty slow.
Sure.
And the jig's rolling like this, like a minnow would.
Yep. And what trailer are you mostly throwing for that shaking style?
I almost always, for my brim bluegill swim jig, it's usually a 5-inch swim bait, and then for the shad imitating swim jig, I throw the net bait, the kick and bee, I think, as the 2 little kickers.
Yep.
That's usually what I throw for the white swim jigs.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
That and a Rage Menace is really good too.
Yep. Are you shaking the bluegill one too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the bluegill one, that swim bait, that's the one that rolls really good. But the shad one doesn't roll as much. It flaps really good.
That net bait you're telling me about, I'm gonna grab a Waypoint bait that I think is like identical. I think.
Oh yeah, that's it.
That's the Depths Barraboot.
Get you a white one in them, that'd be the deal.
Huh. I should play with that up here. I feel like on the river it'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it wouldn't on the river.
I haven't been to the river since I went to school. I'll probably look at it completely differently.
So what's the deal with a trailer like this? Like mimicking a shad? It's just flickering, more action, better on a shake?
Yeah, like you said, just flickers.
Flat, make it hover better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh. Crazy. Cool. And you're are you doing the same thing as like you do with the minnow, basically?
Mm-hmm.
More up though?
Yeah, the swim jig's always up.
Minnow down, swim jig up.
Depends what minnow.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Huh. I like it, Mr. Fothergill. What time is it? Should we catch another bass? 8:06. I feel like. What time does it get dark now?
You think that big one's ready?
I don't know. You stabbed it on the side of the head at least.
I kind of messed it up.
No, you're fine. I probably caught it earlier on a slug. On a slug. No, what time does it get dark?
I don't even know. I've been home 2 days. I don't know.
I suppose, yeah, you're the wrong guy to ask. Well, in Alabama, it gets dark around 9. Yeah. So you graduated. That's cool. What was graduation like? Was it special?
I'm just so excited not have to do homework the night after practice, night before a tournament.
Oh, yeah,
That was the worst. That's what I'm most excited for.
Yeah, dude, that sounds like it would suck.
Do 12, 13-hour days and then do a 2-hour assignment when you get back. Terrible.
Yeah, no
and,
way.
and then you have to eat that night and shower.
No, I figured you had like some smart people back home doing that shit for you.
I wish I did. I
figured you had like some girls.
That's
like,
the same thing
chasing
Kyle
you
told me.
around or
That's the same
something.
thing Kyle told me.
What?
That I need some girl to do my homework for me.
Yeah, dude. You got to have like some girls after you know, getting messages, getting hit up. Like,
I think there's a couple, but I wish I would have thought about the homework part of it. That would have been really nice.
yeah, That would have been really nice. But, I mean, when you're that busy, I don't know how you have time for girls.
That's why I don't have one.
Well, for all the ladies listening, this is the Gill-Daddy. You can call him Gill-Daddy. That is correct. He is the daddy of gills. He's the father of bass, and he's the chosen one, ladies. So please line up, and we are taking applications. Do you have a website yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, you have to send your Facebook applications in and Instagrams.
You can catch me there.
Yeah, dude. Or like, unless you're Bumbling or Tinder and that. No.
Nope.
No, you got to Facebook or Instagram this guy if you want a shot at getting a candle lit for you. But odds are it'll be a 4-inch minnow. Let's go catch a bass. I don't know what it is. They were biting like better later in the day, and now I don't know if it's because the water temp's kind of stabilized in the backwaters that they're biting more. So it seems like I can go out early and catch them now.
I think you just caught them all.
I just think they hate me. So if I go in the morning, they're like, they know I'm going to be there in the afternoon and night. So they know they hate me then.
They just had a full night to rest and recuperate.
Probably. It'd be like if you woke up every day and forgot what happened. Like, that'd be a kind of a cool thing as a fisherman. How do you forget your memories? How do you throw out practice? How do you get yourself to forget about that? And how does that not cloud your... Like, that's probably what I mistake them gut feelings for, is a literally feeling that I had based on a memory. Like, you know when you think back, like them Garth Brooks songs and shit, it's like, take me back to the, you know, and you just feel something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like fishing memories give you that tingly feeling, almost like a gut feeling can, to the point where I feel like you can mistake the two. And it's like, how do you distinguish? Because that 6-pounder is a tingly feeling. And you felt it here. The sun was like this. You know?
It's a hard thing to block out. I do my best every morning to not know where I'm going to start, what my day is going to look like, and just let it all come to me. That's the mindset I try to go out every day with, even in practice. Just like a lot of people in practice have like a game plan of, I'm going to look at this section of the lake today. Me, I just roll out there and I just run with my gut. And I have no other way to describe it.
Do you ever feel like you don't cover enough water in practice? And then do you ever feel like you cover too much and didn't get to spend enough time in certain places?
I guess that goes back to my style. I don't need to get a bite to be confident in an area. And that, I think, allows me to cover a bunch of water. Like, I don't need to pull up to a brush pile, see him in there, and, you know, throw my bait in there and just sit there till I get a bite. If it's a juicy looking brush pile, I know there's going to be a bass in there at some point. I just move on, find the next one. I have a lot of buddies who waste a lot of time. They don't have confidence in a place unless they get a bite. And I tell them, like, dude, you got to trust yourself more. Like, that's a juicy looking brush pile. It's juicy to you for a reason. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, there's a reason where you're like, man, that's a juicy brush pile. Like, there's a reason why you think that.
But there is a point of dialing in a bite too, right? So you do have to fish some stuff, but I get what you mean. Like, you already have so what you're saying is that, like, you already have your bite dialed in elsewhere. Like, at this point, do you already know you're going to throw a jig and an eco rig and that's your 1-2? Or at this point...
I do this on tournament day more than practice days.
Do what?
Dial in my bite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Got it.
I just want as much ammo as I can after practice, and then tournament day is when I want to dial it in and really get, you know, by the end of the tournament day, if I'm dialed in, I'm going to have a big bag.
So you're just stocking up the armory in practice.
In practice. Yep, exactly.
You're just packing bullets.
I'm putting them in the chamber.
Just packing bees.
Yeah.
Yeah, packing hitters. I like that, dude. It's hard to do, though. It's hard to trust yourself. Like, but yet, it seems like when you go out there free willy-nilly, sometimes it's when you catch them, right? And do The problem is when you have a lot of data points, it's hard to go out there free willy-nilly a little bit. And it seems like you've got a little bit of mix between willy-nilly and data. Like you are a little bit data-driven with your waypoints and with
a little bit
how you're structuring things.
I mean, yeah, even after practice, I'm still it happens all the time. I'm just ripping down the lake, thinking I'm going to the next place, and all of a sudden something just jumps at me. And when that happens, you have to pull over. Have to. Like, I mean, it happened at Logan Martin. That brush pile I caught the 4-pounder out of, I didn't think I was going to hit it. Like, it was just one of those ones it looks good in practice, and kind of forgot about it. But I'm just ripping. I was actually going down to the bottom dam. I had some fish to found down there.
Yeah, how do you so you don't even remember some of those little nuggets? It's just kind of like you're driving by them?
Mm-hmm. I'm driving by and I look over like, oh, yeah, that was...
So you're almost making flags to, like, flag your memory or flag your gut, so to speak.
And, yeah, after I caught that big one, I didn't go to the dam. I ran brush just because, that's just what you have to do. You get a clue, you run with it.
Yeah. So what are some tricks you use for the waypoint management then? Like there's... I mean, because a guy can get overloaded. So what's kind of some tricks to your system?
So I had a system with Lowrance, but this year I'm running all Humminbird. I kind of had to redo my system. Humminbird, I run Solix and Apex. It gives you like 5 favorites. So my favorites, I have a tree emoji for brush piles. I have a stump. I have a flag, which is usually bites for me or schools. And then I have a rock and a grass. Those are my 5. And then I have colors. It's like green, red, all those yellow. Red for me is where I got a bite in practice. That's always what red is. This spring I've been doing purple for beds. And then yellow has been just places I thought looked good.
Sure.
And then I just do blue for random stuff. But red, purple, and red, yellow, purple are the main ones I use.
Yeah, yeah.
And, the red ones, obviously got a bite there. Those are the ones you have to hit. And then the yellow ones are just kind of, if they jump at you, type of ones.
Dude, I think we manage our waypoints like pretty, like that is how I fish. Is I probably I know I plug more waypoints than most people that we fish against up here, like thousands and thousands and thousands. And, yeah,
Like May? I think I have 5,000 waypoints on my graphs already.
Oh, I believe that. Like that's that's
in
me
5
too.
months.
Yep. Well, like just from Google Earth, that'd be a couple thou alone. Like before we even started the engine.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah. And to most people that sounds insane, but I feel like Kevin Van Dam was that way too, with just blue dots.
Yeah,
like
that's what I love about the Solix and Helix. It allows you to be way more dialed in. That kind of hindered me with the Helix a little bit.
Sure. Oh, for sure.
Because it's not touchscreen either, so you can't. Because there's so many times I'm like, oh, it's a good lay down. I'm just ripping down the lake going 60. Like, and I type in lay down. It's probably dangerous, but I'm always plugging stuff in. It's bad, but it's good.
Accident free. You're good. Dumpkey, on the other hand. So your system now, like, what are you running for like, you're still running a live scope up front, and live scope 360.
Yeah, I have 2 in the back, 3 in the front. So in the front, I have a Solix 12 for mapping, an Apex 13 for 360, and then an 8616 for forward facing, and then in the back I have 2 Solix 12s.
Okay. Do you think there's a difference, like, between Garmin units as far as, like, scoping goes? I've heard, like, some stuff about, like, the 86 series versus an Echo Map. Like, do you think there's a dramatic difference in quality there?
I guess I haven't...
In scopeability?
I think that it's the 8612, the 12-inch of the top of line 12-inch. I've never played with that one, so I went from the GPS map, the 1222, up to the 8616, so... I guess you can't really compare those because I didn't have the top of the line 12-inch.
Sure. What's a EchoMap 126 SV? Would you say that's not top of the line 12-inch either for Garmin?
I would say that's level with the 1222, the one I had.
Sure.
It's just preference if you want touchscreen or to not touchscreen the dial.
Gotcha.
It's kind of how I look at it. I could be wrong. I don't know.
I don't know either. No, you're Mr. Scope Straight or Scope Point over here. Like, you're the scope and you're the chosen one. So, yeah, all the questions are for you tonight. Are you excited? Like, you haven't got to catch smallmouth since that one tournament.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, Kentucky.
Yeah.
You got to.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
I mean, I only had a day and a half of practice, so my plan was just to fire up side scan and find as much things as possible. And, you know, it took 5 minutes. I found a bed. I was just like, well, this is how this is going to go. And by the end, I put.
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. They have a wide variety of home loan programs in their tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. Just ask me. I trusted Aaron Dagas, a bass fisherman just like you and me, and Supreme Lending's Dream Team to help finance my first home. Contact Aaron Dagas and the Dream Team today by scanning the QR code or giving them a call at 763-326-0677. That's 763-326-0677. Did I catch a 7 in there? Or visit their website, aarondages.supremelending.com. That's AARONDAEGES.supremelending.com. Teal's Bass Galaxy is now offering intergalactic merchandise. That's right, we got apparel now, baby. Check out our website. We got a variety of apparel, hats, bucket hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, you know, all the finest goods. So stop on our website, tealsbassgalaxy.com, click on the apparel tab, and start looking good, baby.
18 hours on motor in a day and a half, and I had almost 200 beds marked.
Damn.
And so
Yeah.
the 2 tournament days, we just went out and absolutely clobbered them, just
Yeah.
as many as we could. And we didn't have time to, like, you know, like have waypoints like, oh, that's a 420, this is a 380. We just went out and caught as many as possible, and yeah, it was super fun. It's crazy how the population's coming back in that place. It's going to be, because the first time I went there in
Y'all
2000,
got weighed in, so I don't know if anyone actually spawned.
There's the amount of beds out there is incredible.
That's what people are saying.
But yeah, the first time I went there was 2018, like the peak of the crash, and it was in tough shape.
Yeah.
And it's just, I've went back there every year since then. It's just, they grow every time.
Really?
Every time. It's super cool to see.
They
And
spawn on stumps and stuff, right? Mostly.
it's, yeah, any structure they can find, stump, brush piles, rocks.
What's your kind of 1-2 for bedded smallmouth? I mean, for me, it's not like anything crazy or rocket science, but
No, it's, if you're lucky, you can get something swimming over them. That's when it's fun. That's when you can really. But sometimes, or most of the time, you got to slow down with a drop shot or a Ned rig. Just just harass them with it.
Yep.
It's not rocket science. It's just managing your time. You know, if you spend a bunch of time on one, you better make sure it's worth your while.
Right.
Sort of deal. But I hate bed fishing tournaments.
Oh, they're the worst. Did you use perspective or forward for that more so? And how deep were they spawning?
Most of them were 6 to 10 feet, and it was mainly forward. You could see the fish good enough to where.
Sure.
Because I don't know, most of them actually weren't sitting right on bottom. They'd be sitting just perfectly off bottom where you could see them really good.
How often do you run into them bottom huggers? Because that to me is interesting with live scope, is you can miss them, and all of a sudden you put a bait over them, and there's a big school there that you couldn't see just panning on them.
I find that to be the case a lot when there's current. Like gunners will
Current.
You don't see much until you bring your bait over there, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Got it.
But I guess I say that, and Florida's like that too. Although there's lots of lake current in Florida that I think goes not seen sometimes.
Sure.
But in Florida, that happens all the time too, on like shell beds and stuff.
I wonder if that's why they hug on the lax as much as they do.
I bet it is.
With washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Nobody likes getting blown around.
Mm-mm. But yeah, it's crazy how many I mean, it happens a lot more than you think. How many bass you can go over not even seeing them.
I wonder if they just are going to learn to hug more. Like if it becomes more of a like a pressure safety mechanism, because like it's going to make it harder to do it faster. Like if that's the case.
For sure. Yeah. I think something's going to happen. I don't know what. They'll adapt some way. They always do. So.
Yeah. Well, how have you seen it change so far? Like, walk me through how you've seen it change. Like, what was it like when you started and versus right now? Because that, like, if we look at that, can sometimes give us a little bit of glimpse into the somewhat future, right?
Yeah, I guess Nick and I got dialed in down at school our freshman year on the whole minnow thing, and it seems like it didn't take off for everyone else till Gussie won the Classic on it is when it really took off. I mean, people caught on, obviously, but I guess fish behavior, I haven't seen really much of a difference. It's just a lot of them are getting hard to bite.
Sure.
But I do think something will change with behavior as a whole, because everyone's doing it now. Something's going to change.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be curious if it's more of a bank deal or if it just starts to get harder and harder and the same thing happens. It seems like there's a lot of tackle coming out for scoping.
Yeah, if you're a tackle company, you better have some sort of minnow.
Oh yeah. Well, I know I like that Smeltnator from Northland. It seems like when the water's cold, that thing is just hard to beat. Do you use that one a fair amount? That Smeltnator head?
I do a little bit. Like you said, for the guppy style head, I definitely like for smallmouth, but the more open water scoping, I tend to use the ball head type jig more.
Sure.
There's definitely a time and a place for both of them, though.
Yeah. Interesting. It seems like late fall, that was like the right head to use for them.
I haven't been home in late fall in years, so I'm excited for that.
You'll be home this fall, actually, I suppose, since you graduated. So
we'll see. I'll be living in Alabama again, but I'll have to make a trip home. I'll be able to this year.
I gotcha. Cool. Well, I guess it's kind of a interesting thing to prepare for at your age, being an Opens and Elite Series angler. Obviously, you're gunning to be an Elite Series angler. You wouldn't be fishing if you weren't. And I don't suppose you've thought about much else. I don't think you've probably thought about a full-time job out of college much, have you?
Not yet. I mean, in the back of my mind, obviously, it's got to think of a backup plan, but no, I want to make the Elite so bad.
So I guess, with that, I know there's been just a lot of intimidating truths coming just about being a pro and how tough it can be financially and whatnot. And I think you're setting yourself up really well to be there, dude, and stay there. But I guess, is there any concerns you have, and does that scare you at all, like the financial aspect of that? And I guess, are there things you're doing to try to plan for that and make sure you're, on the hopefully winning side of that when you make it?
Yeah, I guess winning the bracket, having everything paid for this year, obviously there's not much stress this year, but thinking about it all year long, if I had to pay for everything, like how,
right? Like
I'm getting all the receipts at the gas pumps, thinking like, holy, like I need to figure my stuff out next year, and I'm definitely working hard this year to try to get as many sponsorships and partnerships as I can for this next season, just because I know if I'm able to qualify for the Elites or the Opens, no matter what, it's going to be an expensive season next year. So I'm working all summer this year to try to get everything lined up and in time for this next coming season.
How has that been so far? Like with some of that, like pursuing sponsors or sponsors pursuing you, has that been an easy road to navigate, a hard one? Has it been different than you expected?
It's been different than I expected. This is something Kyle and Wesley have been helping me a lot with, and what they said is true. You're really nothing until you make the Elites. That's when you're actually something. From high school all the way up to the Opens, you're nothing until you're on the Elite Series.
Sure.
So it's definitely hard, but just getting all that I can really. Until then, I got to get my socials up, and this is a great time to do that, and I'm working on that. Just trying to be as prepared as possible for the next step, whether it's Elites or a full-time job.
Absolutely. I think you need to fish Leech Lake in vintage Bass Galaxy, like space, like astronaut jumpsuit. I think that could be a good start to your career, like social media career. Like, it's a classy move.
I like that.
If I got you one, would you wear it for Leech?
I don't know if the Wolves win the finals. It might be an Anthony Edwards jersey.
I actually can't blame you there. I actually cannot blame you there one bit. I think he's the new big sheriff on the block when it comes to the NBA, dude.
He's fun to watch.
Dude. Like LeBron, he's
old.
He's in the past.
He's on his way out.
He's in the past. The NBA might have found a new poster child. And I'm not even a basketball guy.
That's crazy. I am.
Are you? Did you play in high school?
I played in high school, and I play all the time at college.
Yeah, you were saying that.
I'm a basketball nut.
That's awesome, dude. What? Did you play like straight high school ball?
Mm-hmm.
Forward, guard, center.
I was a small forward.
Small forward. Were you small, or were you? I suppose
I was a big small forward.
I got. It's a big small forward. That makes sense.
I'm not too small of a guy, but I guess as soon as I step on the basketball court, I'm a little bit smaller.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I'm trying to think about what else to get into besides. Do you have an arch nemesis on tour that you kind of every tournament you would say is just kind of an arch nemesis? Do you have like a rival on tour?
I think it's Bo more than anyone. Be my roommate.
Bo?
Just because I know him so much, he's the only one I feel like I can talk trash to.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I figured it'd be that Tucker Smith guy.
Well,
like
yeah.
Rival.
Yeah.
You just don't talk about it.
I don't talk about it.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's yeah.
You two don't text each other and call each other. Say, hi, Tucker. How are you? How was your day today?
I can't say we do. No.
My day was good, Easton. How was your day, Easton? It was good, Tucker. It was really good, Tucker Smith. Thanks for asking.
No, I can't say that.
I ate half a bag of Lay's potato chips today, Tucker, in the boat. Scanning. What did you eat?
I have 40 waypoints. How many do you have?
I've got 4 patterns, including a scope and pattern, Tucker. How many patterns do you have?
Oh.
No, there's got to be some college, like, some like, age rivalry beef. I bet he's got beat. I bet you're his rival. Like, think about it. You took his bracket title from him. Like, you're probably his rival. Maybe.
I guess I don't talk to him enough to know.
You guys don't, like before takeoff in the morning, like, see you on the tracks.
I mean, I'll wave at him driving down the lake, but that's about
Your scope's crooked. Good luck.
I cut your cable last night.
Batteries are dead. Good luck. Is there any? Have you seen any trash talking before the event? I'm gonna mow you down today, boy. Like Buddy Gross ain't walking down the aisle. Just there ain't no Buddy Gross. It's just waving that Sheriff Pecker down the freaking dock in the morning. Who's the most intimidating angler? Like, just looking at him. You know what I mean? Like there's guys that you're like, man, just looking at him. I feel like Tharp.
Tharp, yeah.
I feel like looking at Tharp. I'm like,
And McMillan. Brandon McMillan.
Yeah, those are 2.
E-Bear for me, just because I know he's going to wreck him. Just the role he's on is incredible.
But that's an interesting one. You're like, looking down. It's like he fucking almost stepped on a snake.
Yeah, but
he's dangerous.
Yeah, he is.
Did you see that video of him fishing with his mom?
Yeah, she caught like an 8 or
yeah,
something.
she's like a badass.
That was a cool video.
That was cool. Who do you think's the most deadly angler you fish against on tour right now? Like, who's the scariest angler on the opens right now?
Probably Eber. Emil's really good, especially with scope. Emil's a bad man with scope.
Talk to me about this Emil Wagner guy, because he's just recently kind of come on the scene, and he's been a hot topic lately.
Mm-hmm. He's always been that guy around the herring stuff, the Laniers and Hartwells. He's just now he won the All-American, and he kind of got the funds saved up to take it nationwide, and he's just now getting his word out or his name out. So.
Sure. So how old is he?
He's a little bit older than me. He's maybe 24, 25, but he's a bad man, and he's a bad man. He's coming. I think.
I think so too, dude. He seems that everything he touches turns to big bass.
Mm-hmm.
How's Dumpke doing?
Dumpke's dumpkeying around. They're actually, him and his family, the boat got totaled, so they got a check from that, and now they're looking for a new boat, so see what they come up with. That'll be exciting.
Dumpke, just so you know, you have my cell number, and would love to help get you into a new boat if you're interested.
There we go.
He's probably got something cooked up with his crew.
I gave him Banger's number, so maybe you hit him up.
Oh, he's fucked. I'm just kidding. You're in good hands. Just don't be giving too many secrets to Banger. Just kidding. No, so you guys, last we spoke, you guys were killing it, but you weren't talking in the boat. Are you guys talking in the boat now? Still no?
Mm-mm. Don't need to.
Telepathically communicate.
Yeah, we haven't changed nothing since we last talked. Other than he just doesn't have a boat now.
Is there you guys learned some cool stuff together? Has there been any like Dumpke Fothergill moments, like throwing the weird colored jerkbait out on a Harris chain fish, or throwing the secret weapon that we don't talk about, or anything like that? Or is it just kind of standard protocol now, just business as usual? This is just how we do it, and we just this is normal now.
It's just normal. I haven't changed nothing since we last talked. I don't know. I don't know. Just hopefully go find some bass. Just roll with it. Roll with the punches. All you can do is work hard and see what happens. That's all you can do.
Dude, I think you're on your way to the elites, dude.
No, we can't talk like that yet.
No, but you're off to the right start, and just keep it up, buddy. It's been a really fun ride watching you. Yeah, we're not gonna jinx nothing, but I'm pulling for you. Well, I think unless you want to teach me some more shit today, Mr. Fothergill, I think I'm good.
I think anything else we need to teach is off record.
Sounds good. Teal's Bass Galaxy, checking in, checking out.